in-person participation. Audio and video of this regular meeting is being simultaneously televised live on WGA-TV Channel 79 and YouTube at WGA-TV 79 in order to allow the public to view and to listen to our meeting. I will now call the roll of the Board of Selectmen and staff attendees. Please respond as I call your name. Deputy First, I'm going to ask you're not speaking. Please turn off your, mute yourself. That sounds terrible.
I'm here, Beth.
Okay.
I'm here, Beth.
Thank you, Mika. Joe Crisco? Joe Dye?
Here.
Thank you, Joe. Beth Heller is here. Dwight Rowland?
Here.
Thank you, Dwight. And Sandra Stein?
Here.
Thank you, Sandy. Administrative Officer, Director of Finance, Tony Genovese?
Here.
Thank you. Assistant Administrative Officer, Betsy Yagla?
Here.
Thank you. She'll be taking our minutes this evening as well. Town Council, Jerry Weiner?
Here.
Okay, that's I think I've gotten everybody. Media Specialist Pua Ford is also with us this evening. Thank you, Pua. With that, we will move to the agenda. Item 1 is the First Selectmen's remarks. Sorry, it's lengthy, but there's a lot to say this evening. Good evening. First is an update to the board and our residents regarding current reopening plan. We will be opening town buildings for in-person appointments beginning on the last Monday of this month. Our doors will remain locked and folks will only be allowed in by appointment. You may call the department to schedule an appointment. Town staff have done a terrific job of being creative and providing all needed services to our residents. As we enter the colder months, it is important that we give people the opportunity to come in from the cold and meet face to face if and when absolutely necessary. I believe that most residents have been satisfied with meeting staff at the door or picking up and dropping off paperwork, but there are certainly instances where something may be more complicated and not easily handled in a very quick interaction. During the month of September, there were several staff meetings at which a plan was formulated to take appointments for the public who feel the need to do so. Masks and social distancing are mandatory, and we have added hand sanitizing stations at the main entrance to our building. The library will reopen for browsing during limited hours, which will begin during the first week of November. There are no plans to resume in-person meetings or allow outside groups to use town buildings at this time. Our hardworking custodial staff is only working during the daytime hours to provide extra cleaning for buildings during regular office hours, and we cannot accommodate evening hours at this time. We are keeping a watch on the coronavirus numbers. They have been rising statewide and locally as well. Our number of positive cases remains at 138, which includes 6 new cases reported between September 11th and October 2nd. None of these cases were from nursing homes or extended facilities. All were from private residences. Quinnipiac Valley Health District reported on Monday, October 12th, that they noted 3 out of the 4 towns in their jurisdiction reporting more COVID-19 cases, but so far none have been in Woodbridge. As with everything during this pandemic, things are very fluid, and we may have to shut down again. I hope that will not be the case, but I promise to keep you all notified. One more COVID-19 update for you from the Amity Superintendent, Dr. Byers. She asked me to share this reminder with the public. Quote, the grounds of Amity Regional High School are in use by students and staff from 6:45 in the morning through 6:45 p.m. We ask that visitors maintain physical distancing or wear face coverings while on Amity property. Additionally, we have many sports and athletic events in the afternoons, and we remind all visitors that dogs are prohibited from the Amity Regional High School property. End of quote. As a general reminder, the presidential election will be held on Tuesday, November 3rd, 2020. I must extend a special thank you to our town clerks and registrars of voters for all the many months of work they have put in to provide us all with the opportunity to vote, either by absentee or in person. I would encourage everyone to do so. You all have received very large packets for tonight's meeting, including a large correspondence section. There are copies on many emails related to different subjects, and I will be discussing the ones that specifically were asked to be read out loud. Unfortunately, we are not going to read any of them because we would be here till 4 a.m. Others are all a matter of public record. All of them are a matter for public record for anyone to request to view. And Mrs. Shaw reminded me this afternoon that they are all part of the minutes, so they will be online. I also want to remind you that within the correspondence section, there are updates from our consultant, Mike Boucher, who is still working on the review of our police department, fire department, and EMS dispatch. And that's all I have as far as my remarks. I have more to say regarding item 1A, the cell tower update and action as appropriate. Before I begin with this update, I would ask residents and others who offer comments to me and to the Board of Selectmen to please remember to get the facts prior to writing to us. The town of Woodbridge never asked for, proposed, or had anything to do with erecting this tower in our town. This is not a town project. I would also ask that residents refrain from accusations about things that are just not true. We are all here to help residents, and none of us deserve abusive language or misstatements about our intentions. We are better than this. Let's work together to try to solve this problem instead of arguing about untruths. As you know, the town of Woodbridge received a packet dated July 17th, 2020, informing us of a proposed private transaction between residents at 118 Newton Road and Selco Partnership, doing business as Verizon Wireless, to construct a new cell tower at 118 Newton Road in Woodbridge. The applicant has asserted that the purpose of the proposed Woodbridge North 2 facility, also known as the new cell tower, is to, quote, fill existing wireless service gaps in Selco's 2100 megahertz frequency range and provide more reliable wireless service in Selco's 700 millihertz frequency range to north central Woodbridge, unquote. At that time, no formal response to the initial July letter was made, as none was required. We simply received technical information which need to be provided at least 90 days before an application is filed with the Connecticut Siting Council. As the decision on the application is exclusively vested in the Siting Council. Additionally, there is a letter in your packets from Christine Sullivan, our land use analyst, written in response to a resident's question regarding the quote-unquote planning capacity of the Town Plan and Zoning Commission regarding a cell tower. She writes, quote, under state statutes, cell towers, such as the one proposed for 118 Newton Road, are specifically exempt from local zoning ordinances and are solely under the jurisdiction of the State Siting Council. Because cell towers are exempt from local zoning regulations, the members of the Town Plan and Zoning Commission have no authority to approve or disapprove the cell tower, end of quote. After speaking with several adjoining residents, Attorney Weiner and I began the process of trying to find a way to help with this problem. Let me emphatically state that I believe that this cell tower does not belong in the area of 118 Newton Road or 19 Soundview Drive or any other residential neighborhood in our town. Any such location is completely unacceptable, in my opinion, and to that end, I have continued to try to find a location that provides the needed service, but does not impact any residential neighborhood in our town. The letter that we received on July 17th lists 7 sites that were identified and investigated. Let's review those first. Number 1, 118 Newton Road. Selco entered into a lease agreement with Michael Soufrine, trustee of the Soufrine Family Trust, for the development of a new tower cell site on this 6.01 acre parcel in the town's residential A zone district. Sorry. Thank you. Number 19 Soundview Drive. This is an 8.2 acre residential parcel owned by J. Michael Soufrine, located immediately west of the proposed tower site. Number 10 Sperry Road. This is an undeveloped 117 acre parcel west of Sperry Road owned by the South Central Connecticut Regional Water Authority. 615 Amity Road. This is an undeveloped 199 acre parcel east of Amity Road and west of Sperry Road, owned by the South Central Connecticut Regional Water Authority. 2060 Litchfield Turnpike. This is an undeveloped 433-acre parcel east of Litchfield Turnpike and east of Sperry Road, owned by the South Central Connecticut Regional Water Authority. 46 Burnt Swap Road. This is a 3.87-acre parcel owned by the town of Woodbridge. This parcel contains significant wetland areas associated with the Wepperog River in the southerly portion of this parcel. Number 7, Meeting House Lane. This is a vacant 103.34-acre parcel owned by the Woodbridge Park Association, Incorporated. I believe it's also known as Alice Newton Memorial Park. I have emailed 3 letters to all residents who have written to me dated September 22nd, October 1st, and October 9th. Those letters have been sent to the Board of Selectmen members as well. As of today, 3 p.m., we have received 73 letters opposed to the cell tower at 118 Newton Road and 1 letter in favor of such. These letters are all in your packet and are available to anyone as part of the public record for public inspection by calling Town Hall, and they will be copied and emailed to anyone who requests them. And as I stated earlier, they are also part of the minutes once Jerry Shaw files them. Several additional sites that have been investigated so far, and if you have others, please let us know as soon as possible. 11 Meeting House Lane and the Police Department Tower at 4 Meeting House Lane. This is not, the Town Hall is at 11 Meeting House Lane. It's not going on Town Hall. Although this property is town-owned and not very visible from residences or roads, this is the property behind Public Works. It is about 100 feet lower than the 118 Newton Road property. This property would require a tower of about 250 feet with lights at the top, and utilities are not building cell towers that are this high. The Eldersley Park parcel on Petco Road. This site will need further research. There is a prior grant of conservation restriction to the Woodbridge Land Trust dated April 4th, 2000. This property does have elevations higher than 118 Newton Road. There's a Dillon Road. Verizon has been asked to investigate a property on Dillon Road, which is in a heavily wooded lot. We have not yet heard back from Verizon as to whether this property is capable of providing coverage to the area of town, which Verizon contends is underserved. We continue to explore other options. I will say it again, I believe that this cell tower does not belong in the area of 118 Newton Road or 19 Soundview Drive or any other residential neighborhood in our town. Any such location is completely unacceptable in my opinion, and to that end, I have continued and will continue to try to find new locations that provide the needed service but do not impact any residential neighborhood in our town. I would like to ask that the board agree to take a formal vote once we begin discussion on this matter, that the Board of Selectmen, number 1, take a vote that says that we do not approve of the proposed cell tower location at 118 Newton Road, and furthermore, the board wishes to engage an attorney with experience in such matters to advise us as to the next steps to stop the construction of this tower at 118 Newton Road. With that, I will ask Attorney Weiner to comment on what might be our next legal options. And then we can have a discussion about this. I'm sorry.
So Beth, I think you covered most of it pretty thoroughly. I just want to say that I've been in touch with Verizon's lawyer almost daily, and some days twice daily, since in the last 10, 15 days, 20 days. We have been offering alternate sites. We've been talking about the proposal. Some of these alternate sites we offered were actually given to,
Hello?
several sites that we've offered that we haven't had a response from their technical crew as yet. So we're waiting on those.
You froze.
You cut out for about 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Okay, start again. I'm sorry.
So I've been talking, I don't know where I cut. I've been talking to their lawyer on a daily basis, almost twice daily for the last 10, 15, 20 days, offering sites. They've been coming back from their technical people telling us why the site was unacceptable and didn't provide the adequate coverage, was too low, or for a variety of reasons they could not do it. They have been conscientiously following up on every site we have offered, and we will continue to offer sites to them as we go along. The problem that we have is that there's a certain area that has to be covered, and many of the sites in that area are all residential neighborhoods. So we're really in a difficult situation, although we will not give up until we know everything has been exhausted. The other thing is, I've talked to a lawyer who has experience in cell tower matters the last day or so, and he's actually the town attorney in Westport. And they had an issue in New Canaan recently where I think AT&T was going to put up a cell tower in a residential neighborhood. He advised that the chance, once these matters get to the siting council, which has total 100% exclusive jurisdiction, and as Beth said, no planning and zoning, no ZBAs, no development committees in any town has any decision-making authority in this. So once you get to the siting council, if all alternate sites have been exhausted, it is, and this is not a secret, it is very, very, very difficult to have the siting council rule against the utility that's seeking to put up a cell tower in a community. But that being said, the attorney is prepared to meet with the Board of Selectmen next week we have to pick a date to give him in a virtual meeting and discuss the possibility of retaining him to see whether he has any ideas that we need to follow. And I would suggest that the board actually does set up a meeting with him for sometime next week. And that's the summary of where we are right now. Again, everybody should know there has been no formal application filed by Verizon with the siting council as yet, and they will not file one for a while until at the very least we do the public informational session, which they have scheduled for October 22nd. And probably significantly thereafter. We have been told that the siting council has an extremely busy docket. And if an application is filed, say by the end of the year, this will not be heard until well into 2021 by the siting council. So we've been taking advantage of this informal period of time and the process of going after every single possible viable site. Unfortunately, we haven't been very successful, and again, unfortunately, most of the logical sites that would work in this area are residential. So, and that's my report on the cell tower.
Thank you. So if it's okay, would everyone like to speak to this and perhaps give an opinion before we make a decision on, and maybe add comments, or if you have something related to this, that if you have another site, please let us know. I've been driving around Woodbridge for almost every day thinking and trying to investigate something else because, as I said, this is unacceptable. I'm going to fight as hard as I can. I don't know. So I guess I'll start with Mika, if you'd like to comment first.
Sure, Beth. Obviously, I feel very much the same way you do. I don't feel that this is the right spot for a cell tower, and I know that there's been a lot of activity in trying to find alternate sites. Jerry, one of the questions that I have, and it's more of something to go forward with. For example, I know when they looked at, for example, the one that comes to mind is Birch Swamp, and they said it's lower elevation by 80 or 90 feet, whatever it is. That was one of the letters, I think, as a matter of fact, the responses that I saw in one of the documents that came from the lawyer. I'm just wondering if they're looking at it, understanding that they feel they get the optimum from where they want to put it now. If something is not quite to that particular level, but it still provides some degree of improvement over what they're trying to do. Can that be considered? And I don't know if they're just kind of discounting that out of hand because they have such an optimal site, or if there is potential for them to say it's a better site here, even though it doesn't do quite as much as we had hoped it would. But Beth,
that's a good question. I don't know the precise answer to that because I'm not an engineer or technical person. But I think what they need, they need a minimum of 140-foot tower, so it won't interfere with other towers that are in town, other signals, and it will be able to provide the coverage that they need. So I think we're starting from that point, and anything less than that, they would have to go higher on the tower. And they say that utilities are not putting in extremely large towers anymore because you have to put lights at the top. There's airplane issues, things like that. So I think the minimum is 105. I don't think it works a little bit. I think it's got to be 140 feet, from what I understand. But we can ask the technical people that question.
So
Also, Burnt Swamp Road, Mika, has a significant amount of wetlands, so it might not even be a viable spot, even if it was high enough.
No, I understand. I just use that as an example in terms of the elevation considerations.
Right.
So Jerry, maybe to frame what Mika's trying to get at, if another location could provide, let's say, 85 to 90% of the coverage that they're looking for, is that something that would be acceptable to Verizon, or something that we should actually push for? Because I don't think they'll find an equal site necessarily, but how much less coverage are they willing to provide by having the cell tower in a more acceptable location?
Right. It's a great question. My feeling in the conversations that I've had, and I didn't directly ask that question, again, is that they need the minimum 140 feet to provide even the bare minimum coverage that they need. But we can see whether anything less would be acceptable for maybe not 100%.
And Jerry, just
but somewhat.
And another way to look at another way to frame it, Jerry, is, for example, if they did not, if the property owner had said no at 118, chances are they wouldn't have abandoned the project. So what would have been the option? It would have been less than what they're getting now, apparently, because it seems to be optimum from their perspective. So had that property, or if the property owner decides he doesn't want to do it for some reason, I doubt they'll get rid of the project. So what else are they willing to accept in terms of coverage? And I know you can't answer it. I'm hoping we can communicate that to them and find out what their position is.
Good question, and I'll get that answer for you tomorrow. I will actually ask that specific question, framed the way you just framed it, which I think is a good way to frame it.
Thank you.
Keep in mind, they've been looking at this site. They haven't just started to look at the site the last 4 or 5 months. They've been looking at this site. This has been a 4-year project. They abandoned it for a while because for whatever reason, and they stopped looking. And they recently came back to it. And I think the impetus for them coming back to it was the decommissioning of a tower that is on West Rock, which is very old and has a lot of interference and just doesn't work anymore. So they're pushed into finding some kind of an alternative.
Okay, thank you. I'll call on Joe Crisco next. I'm going to do it alphabetically.
Yes, thank you. Two points. Could the police tower be heightened in order to accommodate Verizon's need? In addition, I've been informed that the towns of Easton, Branford, East Haven, Guilford, and Glastonbury have gone through this, and I wonder if anybody thinks it's valuable to contact these towns.
I haven't. I don't know. I'm sure that those towns have gone through it, but all I'm going by is the answer that was given to me today by. Actually, it was given to me by several lawyers who I only haven't talked to just one lawyer who has experience in this. I've talked to maybe 2 or 3, and all have said the chances of prevailing at the siting council are 99%. For a town, it's very, very difficult. So I don't know what the results were in those towns. But we can find out.
I wanted to mention it for information.
Pardon me?
Just wanted to mention it for your information.
Okay.
If you want to check.
Joe, just to answer your question about the police tower, it would have to be, it would have to go up to almost 250 feet high because it's lower. It's the same height as the town hall as far as the topography goes. And we'd have to have a flashing, a flashing light on it, and they won't do that anymore. So that I looked at that one as well. We tried.
Thank you.
You're welcome. That's it? Okay. Joe Dye.
Yes, here. I don't have a whole lot more to add. I do agree that the proposed site is less than optimal and we should oppose it. I agree with engaging the lawyer since at least I'm not technical enough to understand why they even need that cell tower there. I don't live too far from there, and I travel all over Woodbridge, and I mean, occasionally you get a gap for a second here or there, but I have never had any real problem with cell service in Woodbridge. I guess there is some, but fundamentally, I don't even know why they need that tower there or anywhere else. As far as Burnt Swamp Road, they say it's lower, it's swampy, whatever. It's still in residential A, and it still surrounds neighborhoods. So I don't know why that would even be an alternative. But I think our best course of action is to listen to the attorney, perhaps engage him if we think it's appropriate, and then whatever our rights are at the siting council, make sure we put those forth as best we can, because that's where the real determination is. Of course, after we offer up whatever alternatives we have, but it sounds like we've kind of exhausted alternative sites that would cover whatever gaps they have. So that's where I'm at.
Joe, the only reason Burnt Swamp was in the mix is that was one of the areas that was identified by Verizon's engineers as providing enough coverage. They did a very cursory introductory survey of Woodbridge, and that was in the circle that could have had enough coverage. After they looked at it into it further, it's too low and it has wetlands on it. So that the only reason it's out there is because this was something they gave us, and we made them go back and just confirm that it was not available. And you're right, it isn't any alternatives except for the water company properties are going to be very close, if not in the middle of residential areas, because Woodbridge has a significant amount of residential space and very little non-residential space. So it's kind of a problem. Let me just say one quick thing about the water company properties. I talked to representatives of the water company. They said that their policy is anytime they agree to a cell tower on their property, they need permission from the Department of Public Health. Any of their water company properties that have forest on them are excluded by the water company and probably DP, Department of Public Health, because they don't want the forest to be cut down around water company lands, around or on water company lands. There's one piece that has a sliver of possibility, and it's on Morris Road. It's a large water company parcel that actually has areas that do not have a lot of forest. So we're really following up very hard on that particular piece of property. Don't know what's going to happen, but that's seems to be the only viable water company property that might be available.
Excuse me, I was the chair here. I was told that the land on Peck Hill might be a site. I don't know if that's very valid or not.
Which one?
Peck Hill. There's a big mountain there.
Eldersley.
Yeah, we're still investigating that. There was, as I said, a conservation easement, but that may be something we have to look into. We could talk with our attorney, not Jerry, but perhaps the attorney that we end up hiring if we do vote to do so about that. I have another quick question before I keep going. Jerry, do you think it's important for us to get a recommendation from the attorney that we hire about whether or not we need engineering studies, or do we have to check the engineering studies through the Verizon company to make sure that they're correct in what they need?
That's a good question, and I asked him that question. He said in his experience, and I think 30 years of experience, he has found that the utility engineers and technical people are very thorough, very good, and they're very hard to dispute on a technical basis. But of course, there's always a first time, there's always a second time, and we can look into that and we can ask him that question. But it's very expensive, and it also is the chances of being able to dispute the utilities technical people are not great, according to this lawyer.
Okay.
The big question. I think Joe hit the big question. The big question is there really a need for it in this area? I think that's what an issue would be before the siting council. And again, they have determined, and that's where we have to sort of pin our hopes on and our energies on, because unless we find an alternate spot. But again, the attorney said to me that as far as need is concerned, engineers and technical people for the utility are usually pretty good in pinpointing why there is a need. But it remains to be seen whether there really is.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. You heard my comments. Sorry about that. Dwight Rowland.
Yeah, I sort of agree with that, with what you all have said about, I don't like it in a residential neighborhood. I don't think it really should be there. But my question is, does it really have to be on this side of town, or can it be really anywhere in Woodbridge to get the coverage? Okay, that's a question. I think they're honing in on a specific area in Woodbridge where the tower's got to be, and it's also going to feed a tower in Hamden or whatever, from what I understand. So I think we need to ask the question: does it have to be in a specific area, like on the east side of town, or can it be anywhere, like Acorn Hill or whatever? Can it be anywhere, located anywhere in town? So that's where I stand.
Thank you, Dwight. We can get that answered. Okay, and you're all set, Dwight? Sorry. Okay. Sandy.
Thanks, Beth. I think everybody has covered most of the questions and opportunities that we have to look for alternative sites. I also am opposed to having the cell tower located in the middle of a residential neighborhood, and feel that we have to try everything that we can to find an alternative site. And I guess I have one question for you, Jerry, in terms of the Morris Road Regional Water Authority site. If that is acceptable to Verizon, what kind of strategy can we use as a town with town residents to lobby the water authority to let us go ahead with this?
That's a very important part of this, and it will be a lot of lobbying and persuading, right from the head of to the top of and the head of the water company, right down to people who are involved in this area at the water company. The guy I spoke to was the person in charge of the cell tower division. But anybody that we know, we have to put a full court press on. If this is an acceptable site and it has minimal impact on residential neighbors, we have to do whatever we can with the water company. We're one of the water company's large customers. So we have to make sure that we do everything we can to get them to come around to allowing us to do it.
So I think that we would need a town strategy.
Yes.
And perhaps the legal counsel that we hire could help us with this, because I think that residents are prepared to mobilize around this issue, but we have to do it in the most productive way. I do think that there is a certain area of coverage where it is a safety issue for the town. And I'm sure that that's the appeal that Verizon will make to the siting council. And it is kind of the north central region, and that's why locating a tower there is their preference. But I think being able to coalesce all of the different perspectives and have us working in one direction will benefit the town and the residents the most.
I'm not hearing anyone.
I unmuted. Sorry. This is tough. Got to be tough on this. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Sandy. I think everyone has commented from the board at this point. I will remind residents just before we get into our vote that there will be a Zoom meeting on October 22nd at 7 p.m. There is a website, a way to get in to the Zoom meeting, and is that up on our website at this point, or should we get it up there for those folks who haven't gotten my letter yet?
It's not on the website. That's something I could do, or I could email it out individually to people as they requested. I'm not sure.
I think we should put it on the website because there are folks that we don't have their emails yet, or they've chosen not to leave it with us. And I think the more folks we tell, the better. If that's okay.
Post it on the website.
Okay, thank you very much. It is a Zoom meeting. Unfortunately, we have to do those things for a little bit longer here. Okay, thank you. So with that, I will, just to get our discussion moving forward, I will make a motion that the Board of Selectmen of the Town of Woodbridge does not approve the proposed cell tower location at 118 Newton Road in Woodbridge. We'll start that number one. Do I need anything else as part of that, Jerry? We're against.
That's fine.
So in other words, if you vote for this, you are not approving the cell tower. Okay, thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Sandy. Any further discussion on the first question? I will call the question. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? Thank you very much. We'll make sure, who should we send that to, Jerry?
That should go right to their lawyer,
Kenneth Baldwin?
Kenneth Baldwin, yes.
Okay, all right, thank you. I'll Betsy, just remind Jerry Shaw to do that for me. Thank you, tomorrow. Thank you. And then the second part of this is, I hope I do this right, Jerry, legally. The Board of Selectmen desires to engage an attorney with experience in such matters related to the, to advise us as to next steps to stop the construction of this tower at 118 Newton Road and seek further advice for all the questions that came up this evening.
That's good. That's fine. Yep.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on this? All in favor, please say aye.
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 So with that being said, we will get back to you as soon as we have a specific date and time. We hope next week. And I think it's important we try to get everyone to join us again. It'll be a WebEx meeting, but we'll have that. And that will be public, correct, Jerry?
Correct.
Okay, so that will be a public meeting as well. Obviously, we're not going to do it next Thursday, the 22nd.
Right. It will be a public meeting, but part of the meeting will be an executive session, and then the rest of it will be an open session.
But when we come out of executive session, anything that we decide to do will be voted on in public.
Yes.
So the transparency. We're on the side of the public here. I promise. Okay. Anyone have any other comments on 1A? All right. Thank you, everyone. We'll move on to item 2. Thank you, Christine, for hanging in with us. The Woodbridge Board of Education Interim Superintendent Christine Syriac. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Beth. It was very interesting to learn about the cell tower, so I enjoyed the conversation. The Board of Education continues to work on how to address the impact that the pandemic has had on the budget. The original reopening plan required 8 teaching positions that were not in the 2021 budget, a cost of approximately $575,000. The Board of Ed initially decided to hire 8 temporary substitutes through Thanksgiving at a cost of $137,000 while deciding how to move forward. As of October 5th, the special meeting of the Board of Education, they've decided to move forward and hire 4 long-term substitutes for the entire year. So technically, those are 1-year teaching positions, and the people would be entitled to benefits by contract. So as opposed to hiring 8 positions, we're moving to 4 positions. We will also reassign some of our existing certified staff to support the other 4 positions because the board is still needing 8 teachers. However, 4 will be from reassignments within our current certified staff. The decision of reassigning those particular staff members will reduce the services to our at-risk students, and it places our curriculum development and advancement work on hold for 1 year. The cost of the 4 long-term substitutes will be approximately $287,000. So instead of the $575,000 for 8, it will be approximately $287,000 for 4. As the monthly summary financial report from the Board of Education through September 30th will show, the Board of Education is currently projecting a deficit of $136,525. That projection can certainly change in either direction as staffing, recruitment, and final placements are ongoing. Partially offsetting that cost overrun are projected salary savings from retirement and from some unpaid leave of absences that the Board of Education approved, plus SRO savings from the summer months, instructional supply savings, professional development savings, and savings from our extended school year program, which is in the summer. And the reason for that saving is because that was partially funded by the 2020 surplus funds. The Board of Education will continue to seek ways to offset the overruns as a result of the pandemic, and we will continue to keep the town updated and informed as we move forward. I also just wanted to address briefly the fact that when school reopened, we received much negative and positive outreach from our parents in regard to our remote as well as our in-person learning. And what we have done is I sent a survey out to parents last night to gather some feedback to see after 1 month of school how they're feeling about both those programs. So I hope to be able to share some of that information at upcoming Board of Education meetings. And the last thing I will say is that I have worked in several other districts in my career, and I just want to share, Beth, that, and to all of you, that I really like the process that you have set up here in Woodbridge. I like the fact that at our Finance Committee meeting last night for the Board of Education, there was a liaison from the Board of Selectmen present, Sandy, and that there was a liaison from the Board of Finance. I think it provides an opportunity for very open and transparent conversations. And I've never had the privilege of working in an environment like that. And I've really enjoyed that process. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll start. I just have a couple of quick questions. Thank you very much for the report from Al to you, which you shared with the board. And as a member, it is a part of the packet if anyone's interested in the outside seeing this. It's public information. One of my questions regards, and this is probably just because I just don't know, you talk about some savings, $58,000 in saving for ESY program staffing and transportation. What is ESY?
Okay, so that's the extended school year program. That's for our students who need to attend school during the summer as well, generally special education students.
Thank you very much. That was an easy one, but I didn't know. Okay, thank you. Under the summer enrichment program, there's a comment about summer enrichment program was also not in session during summer months. There were expenses realized, primarily labor costs for the planning of the program. Do you mean savings versus expenses, or if it's not in session, how could you have expenses?
Yeah. So my understanding, and I was not here at that time, but my understanding is that they planned for a summer enrichment program. So there was a person, the director of the program, who put all the time into putting it together, planning what the different courses would be and options would be available. But then when they posted that, there just wasn't the interest in the community based on what's currently happening. So there was some expense in order to pay that person, but there wasn't the entire expense to run that.
Thank you. I have some questions later on. I'll just asking for some future data that I think we probably would like going forward, but nothing. So I'll call on anybody from the board other than me who has questions. Please come forward and unmute yourself and talk away.
Christine, it might be helpful for people to understand what's happening with the school lunch program.
Okay.
So if you could explain that, that would be great. Thank you.
So currently, the school lunch program is running at a deficit, and we're not exactly sure why that happens to be at this particular point in time. I did include that as a survey question on the survey that I sent out to parents. So our participation rate is down around 50% from previous school years. And we also are in a position where, because of a grant that has been continued from the federal government, we are able to provide free lunch to all of our students, both in person and remote. So we're not quite sure why people are not participating in that program. So I did ask a very simple question in the survey, one in regard to has their child been participating? Two, has their child never participated in school lunch? And then the next question is, if they're not participating, is it because of COVID concerns in the pandemic and they're just electing to provide lunch for their child? Or is it because we haven't really offered a lot of hot lunches yet and we're just moving to that transition now and seeing if the participation increases? So we are hoping that we will begin to see an increase in the participation rate. We saw a little bump this week. And we're hoping that that will resolve itself. But in my conversations with Al, we feel after another month, we're really going to be able to see whether this trend is going to stay as it currently is, or whether we have to, and therefore have to make an adjustment.
Thank you, Christine.
You're welcome, Sandy.
Anyone else have any questions or comments for Christine? Okay, I just have one request going forward, and I've just been thinking about this a little bit. I think that the town is in need of a financial report that identifies additional expenses related to the teaching model that's being used this year for the students at Beecher Road School. We can either have this in a one-page chart that identifies the additional expenses, like teachers, equipment, etc., projected for the entire year, or the specific offsets to these expenses from the current Beecher budget. So we see what's in and what's out, and then the resulting amount of funds that Beecher is anticipating needing from the town to cover the remaining expenses. If that's possible for Al to get us, I think that would be very helpful. Just a one-page summary for us each month. And I think if it's updated every month as everything evolves and changes, who knows what's going to happen next month? None of us know, but we can have this for throughout the year. That would help us a lot, so that all of the board, both Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance, know exactly where we are every single month. So no one says at the end, where did this come from? Because you know that happens. It'll be just, I think it'll also be transparent to the town as well. So if you'd be willing to ask Al for that, I think that would help the board very much.
So Beth, that was a discussion point at last night's meeting as well from both Tom and Sandy. So Al and I have not had an opportunity today to talk about that, but I think a one-page document is something we'll be able to work on and provide.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else have anything else to add to that? Sandy, you were there last night.
No, I appreciate the ongoing discussion with that, and I do believe it would really be helpful to have that document. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on to item 3, liaison reports. We'll start with Mika Cardozo.
Hi, Beth. I did attend the Economic Development Commission meeting last week. I was not able to attend the entire meeting. There was a lot of discussion as relates to survey for the town, as relates to the business and putting together the number of questions and consolidating that. And Betsy, I think when in your report, Betsy, if there's anything more that I missed when in not being there, just let me know. The recreation meeting that I usually attend was prior to the last meeting, so we meet again in about a week and a half.
Thank you, Mika. Joe Crisco.
Thank you. I attended the Board of Fire Commissioner meeting on September 21st. The two most important things was the election of a new chairman. Karen Kravitz was the new chairman, and also that Engine 3 should be back in service as we speak, and that's the highlights for the Fire Commission. In in regards to planning and zoning, on October 5th, there were two applications for changes in the zoning regulations. One was by Martin Sandacroce for the property on Lucy Street that used to be the M&M oil distribution company, and they want to put a vehicle sales, rental, and repair facility there. Also, a John Paul Garcia also is applying for a technical change for parking for tenants on Merritt Avenue, where they have stacked parking instead of parallel. For the first one, for Martin Sandacroce on Lucy Street, there's going to be a public hearing on October 19th, and for Garcia, in regards to Merritt Avenue, there'll be a public hearing on November 2nd. The commission also approved a proposed footbridge on trails on town-owned property at 33 Sanford Road, and they also approved a grass waterway, a diversion swale.
To hear, or if it's more.
Property at 41 Fore Road. The public hearings or the meetings for the Sandacroce applications October 19th, and for the Garcia Merritt Avenue application is November 2nd. And the police commission meeting that was scheduled for last night was canceled at the last minute. That's it.
Thank you, Joe. Where are we here? I did my report. Dwight Rowland.
Yeah, I attended the Human Services meeting on October 5th. They were very glad to hear that their project was moved by the Board of Selectmen in the last meeting to be further studied by the architect. On the capital budget, they are currently working on that for year end. They said that 90 steep grant applications have been submitted, and they were expecting to hear back within the next week or two on that. For the baskets, holiday baskets, they said the donor letters have been sent out to 65. They were planning to run a home alone course for kids ages 9 through 12 on October 8th and the 15th to give them a sense for, when they're home alone, what to do, and give them some sense of what to do. Youth Services Grant should be submitted by tomorrow. It is due to be submitted by tomorrow. There was some concern with cold weather, holding outdoor events with the seniors because the cold weather is coming. So they were a little concerned with that. And the flu shots, the clinics, are going to be held on October 20th, which is a drive-through from 12 to 2. You have to call in advance to get an appointment. And then they're also going to be held on October 26th. There'll be a white tent there as well, and it's going to be also held from 12 to 2. And again, you have to make an appointment. And that's it for Human Services. And then in the wetlands, I was not able to attend the meeting in September.
Thank you very much. Sandy.
I did attend the Library Commission meeting yesterday, and Beth already made the announcement, but this is fine. I can give a little more detail that the library is planning on opening for limited hours starting November 5th. And they'll be open on Tuesday, Thursday, and Fridays, 3 to 4 hours each day, and they'll decide what will work best. It'll be about 10 hours a week, and one of those will be an evening, like until 7, so that people who are coming after work will have access. Only a limited number of people will be allowed in the building at a time, and all of the time will be spent with browsing. They are also considering setting up limited appointments for public computer use, but those times will be limited. They will continue with the park and pickup service, and they expect that most of their circulation is going to be done through that method. But they're going to move the park and pickup materials to the meeting room before it gets too cold. And what will happen is that patrons will go in the side door to the meeting room, and the room will actually be closed off from the rest of the library. So no one will be able to enter the library from that entrance. And the other feature that's worth mentioning is that the Friends are willing to support the purchase of a self-checkout machine for books. And so Eric is investigating this, and hopefully within the next several months, that will also be put in place. That's all I have to report.
Thank you very much. And moving on the agenda, thanks everyone for attending the meeting. Oh, Joe Dye, did I call on you?
No, but I think probably for good reason. I don't have it.
I'm so sorry. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Sorry about that. And with that, we'll move on to item 4, which is the Nexus Golf at the Country Club of Woodbridge. You have in your packet a copy of the presentation, and I hope those folks are with us this evening. It looks something like this, and these are also available that if anyone would like them, we can get them sent out tomorrow to anyone. And with that, I will introduce the Vales, Tim and Patty, and the floor is yours. I'm going to mute myself.
Okay.
So it's all yours. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello, my name is Patty Vale.
And I'm Tim Vale.
I've prepared a statement that I'd like to read before we get started. First off, we'd like to thank the board for the invitation and opportunity to present tonight. Our company is Nexus Golf LLC. We're here to explain to the board our vision for our business. It is a golf business, so we'll explain our vision for the future of golf and explain our vision for a great collaboration between a town and a business. We commend the town and commend this board for the decision to purchase this property. Anyone who has walked the property surely has seen its beauty and its potential. It would be a shame if it had ended up a business park, a private neighborhood, or even a traditional golf course. Yes, I said golf course, but I said traditional golf course. We are not a traditional golf course. There's a lot that is not working with the tradition of golf, not the least of which is how golf courses interact with the public. Most non-golfers have never set foot on a golf course, which is too bad because golf courses are so beautiful. With our business, we are going to change that interaction. With our business, it makes sense to build on public land because our business is all about serving the public. So briefly, just go over our agenda. First, I'll specifically tell you what our proposal is. We'll talk very briefly about Nexus Hybrid Golf and why it will succeed, who we are. We have some vision, our vision for the property. We have images to show you. We'll talk about how much land and which portion of the property we're talking about. We've broken it down into a phase 1 and a phase 2, so we'll give more detail about each of those. The benefits to Woodbridge, which I will say are numerous. Potential lease payment, an example of, and questions, any questions from the board, and then on to next steps. So our specific proposal is we'd like to lease 50 acres of the former Country Club of Woodbridge property for our Nexus Hybrid Golf Course. It would be 9 holes that can play as 18 holes with 3-hole practice loop. There will be a clubhouse that would have a merchandise area, wine tasting area, bar, offer food, and also have some practice simulators. The construction and commencement of operations, we've broken down, as I said, into 2 phases, which will give a little bit more detail further on. And also the town of, this is pretty key, the town of Woodbridge will retain use of the other 90 acres for hiking trails, ball fields, residential development, or whatever other uses the town comes up with. We know that you had looked into some various uses, so the town would still have 90 acres to use for their own purposes.
Okay, so I won't spend a lot of time on this. And actually, we didn't ask you guys, how much time do we have, just so we know how quickly to move through this content?
Well, just keep going, but we have a huge agenda. So
I
We'll
noticed.
keep it moving.
All right, we'll move quick. All right, so I won't spend a lot of time on what hybrid golf is. You can actually learn everything you need to know about it on our website.
I can tell you that the board got this packet ready, so hopefully they've had time to review. And also, I know last Friday you sent out the link, so I watched the tape, and I hope everyone else did as well. And perhaps once you get through, we'll ask the board just if they have any questions about that. And just obviously, the sooner the better, only because we have a lot. But this is important, so go ahead.
Thank you. All right, so anyone who's listening to this call, www.nexushybridgolf.com, you can learn about it. But in a quick nutshell, what it is not, it's not a par 3, it's not an executive par 3 course. It's not meant to be a smaller, less significant golf course. The idea of Nexus Hybrid Golf is it's a full-size, not full-size, but it plays as a full-sized golf course. And the way we do that is by the addition of technology. We're adding technology to the game of golf that desperately needs something different. They need technology. So what you do is you hit your tee shots on par 4s and 5s from within the simulator. And in doing that, that's what allows the course to be significantly smaller than a regular course. And it allows you to play significantly faster. And then some of the benefits right there below, you save money in chemicals and water and maintenance. So your costs are down. You're able to offer more tee times per day because it moves faster, because we also allow for playing night golf because of the way we're set up. So you get more revenue, less costs, you get more profit. Golf courses today are not very profitable. Not all of them, but many of them are on the borderline of turning a profit every year. And as Patty said before, it's going to be a very inviting and welcoming property. It's not going to be a golf course like we have generally where the general public never sees it. It's a very exclusive place, and we're not going to be exclusive. And then real quickly, who we are, myself, I'm an engineer. I solve problems for a living using science and technology. That's exactly what we've done here with Nexus Golf. My background's in polymers and plastics, but I spend a significant portion of my time today at my job solving problems for business, and that involves reducing costs, eliminating waste, and increasing profits, which I'm going to help do with Nexus Golf. I am an entrepreneur. I have started other companies, most notably a manufacturing company up in Windham, Connecticut that's still operating today. I'm no longer an owner, but it was a successful business that is still operating, just so you guys know. And then as far as who Patty is, the main thing to know about Patty is she's, has a proven ability to kind of innovate, to learn stuff, to learn new things, and be good at them. And just a perfect example is, we moved to Connecticut 2 years ago, and there were no teaching jobs in the state of Connecticut. Patty was a teacher. So she learned very quickly how to pivot. She taught herself how to design websites. And this is back in the day. This is before, websites were very easy to design. This is back in the day where you had to write computer code, using different languages, HTML, C++. Patty taught herself that and then got a job and became very good at it. So no doubt that she can do the same, with Nexus Golf, having been that we have not run a golf course before. We admit that, but we also think that's a benefit. We think golf needs a little bit of a disruption. They need people that think a little bit different, and they need a different way to operate.
So the next few slides are going to be images of the course. These are actual professional renderings of the property at Woodbridge. They're not just our ideas. We've actually had a topographical map. And so everything you see is rendered on the Woodbridge property. So the building in the foreground there is one of the buildings that will house a simulator shed. That would be on the first hole. And then behind it, you can see the clubhouse in the background. This is just another view of the clubhouse. We purposely chose our vision as an architecture that is not as traditional as most golf courses. We want to be a bit more modern, be more inclusive. So we're trying to do something a little more updated than a traditional look. Just another view of side view of the clubhouse. There would be tables outside. We really want to encourage people to be outdoors. This is an image view of the interior of the wine tasting area. This is the pond at Woodbridge. You can see the 4th hole simulator there. To the right of that, you see a flag, which is the green on our 6th hole. So just kind of shows you it is beautiful. The sheds don't stand out like a sore thumb. They kind of go right along with the beauty. An aerial view of a few of the holes. You can see a shed or two. You can see the pond in the center there in the background. Just another view. We just like this shot of the 4th hole, and then there with the fairway right behind it. There's a simulator shed there in the foreground. View of the clubhouse at night. Night golf is integral to Nexus Golf. So just showing some nice shots. This is the stadium seating that we have around our 11th hole green. It really wanted to give it a fun environment, make it kind of like a PGA event, or you can just sit and watch people. If you're not playing, you just sit and watch people come in, enjoy food or beverage. But it should be a nice spot. It's an aerial view of most of the course, just to show that we do want to incorporate night golf, and that it is not going to be lit up like a football field. We have tried to be very respectful of neighbors that live nearby. So just an aerial showing you that we need to have the light where we need it, and that's about it. That's just another great view of hole 11 with the stadium seating in the background there, and the simulator shed there in the front.
Okay, and so I'll talk about the different phases that we're looking at, and some of this phased approach has to do with kind of COVID and the time that we've lost, and we've been very anxious to get our chance here with Woodbridge. I think it's the best property out there for what we're doing. I don't want to do it somewhere else. I'm hoping that we can work something out. But from timing standpoint, we want to do it in phases. And what we're showing here is phase 1, we are going to build the 3-hole practice loop. We are going to have some of the indoor simulators in buildings. Some of the simulators that we purchase will be set up outdoors so that people can use them for practice. So in other words, instead of going to a driving range, you come to Nexus and use the best simulators in the industry to work on your game. So effectively, phase 1 will be open and operating basically as a world-class practice facility for starters, but the 3-hole loop will also allow people to actually play around a golf. You can play 3 holes 3 times and get your 9 holes in. You can bring a family that's getting just used to golf and just play a couple of holes. So you'll be able to do that even in phase 1. We're going to renovate the existing buildings, we hope, to use those as our maintenance buildings. We'll have to build some restrooms. We'll have the sprinkler systems put in. And from a timing standpoint, because building a golf course has a lot to do with the weather. The best time of year to build is in August, but you can do it in March. So we need to start in March so we can be planting and growing grass with the hopes of starting and opening our business in July of next year. This is probably the most important picture for you guys. You want to know where is this happening on your property? So there you go. There's the boundaries. Phase 1 would be asking to lease 13 acres to get this going. And this is where we would have the 3 holes. We would have our stadium seating that you saw in one of those images that Patty showed. And everything would fit in this 13-hole spot. And then if we now phase 2, so this is the reason why we're getting into this. We want to create an actual golf course that people can play, and we want to prove to the world that you can play golf significantly faster on a Nexus golf course, and in fact, get more people playing golf. I mean, people just can't play golf because they do not have the time. I don't have the time to play golf. I can't give up 5 hours on my weekend or 6 hours to go to the golf course. It's just not working. Everybody in the golf industry recognizes, we have a solution. And we're going to prove it to the world, and we're going to do it hopefully in Woodbridge. So the phase 2, that's basically going to be the building of the rest of the course and the clubhouse and moving some simulators. Some of the simulator buildings we build in phase 1 will actually be physically moved to their correct locations on the course as part of phase 2. Perfect world with phase 2, we would start the coursework in August of next year, where you start the planting to get the best growing season, so that by the following year in June of 22, we could be operating a full golf course and a 3-hole practice loop. And here's what that looks like. So you'll notice it's kept away from the boundaries of the property for a lot of different reasons. One very helpful reason is it allows hiking trails to be incorporated into the property. I think a lot of your residents would like that. I think it's been talked about. But having that, first of all, it creates a buffer to the golf course, and then it allows for hiking trails. What our designer did there, he in orange, he's showing about 2.25 miles of hiking trails if you guys chose to do that. We wouldn't be building the hiking trails, but we would certainly maintain them for you, meaning cutting the grass back, cutting the weeds back, keeping them functional, signage and all that kind of stuff. We would, because we'd be on the property, we would do that for the town. And just one thing of note, if you see that hole number 12 at the bottom, Nexus can work with only 2 holes of practice holes. So if something came up and somebody else that wanted the property said, hey, we need that little area there, hole number 12, can certainly be eliminated. And I think you guys wanted to ask me the question last time, how far away are we from the property boundaries? There you go. In the upper right corner, that's basically, I remember when Insight was talking to you guys, that's the area that they put their housing complex, and it fit very easily in that area. So in other words, you could have fit their project and our project and still had room for the hiking trails. So that's how far away we are from that boundary. And then we do get close at the bottom, about 120 feet before you get to the trees that are on the other side of the second golf hole.
There's many benefits of Nexus on the Woodbridge property. The biggest one is that, like I said, we followed some of what's been going on, and we know that certain things got voted down. So we feel like we are the solution to the town of Woodbridge, that everyone would get something that they want. The people who wanted golf back, there would be a golf course. People that wanted to develop it, the town could still choose to develop it for housing. People that wanted open space, outdoor space, the town can still choose on their 90 acres to incorporate all of that. So it really seems like everybody would get a win. Obviously, the return on investment for the purchase of the land, you'd be getting money from lease payments. We would be rejuvenating the current property, bringing it back to its former beauty parts of it, and bringing it back to being a safe environment, where everything is cut back, hiking trails, landscaping, lighting. It would just make it a much safer place for more people to enjoy. Weekly activities, we want to bring a lot of people to the property. We want to get people golfing or enjoying our business. We intend to have food trucks as well as having food that we will serve. Also live musical entertainment. And by that, I don't mean, it might not be a Bon Jovi or a Imagine Dragons, but we're talking about much smaller 2-3 person musical, just some kind of entertainment. Night golf, we definitely want to do the night golf on the property. It gives people a destination. There's a lot, especially now, there's very little that you can do at nighttime. And this is a perfect spot for young people, teenagers, anybody to get out on those nice evenings and be able to play some golf, have a drink, get a bite to eat, and enjoy the outdoors. It's very family friendly. Between the golf in the simulators, there'd also be other games, maybe not necessarily golf related, if kids wanted to come but didn't really want to golf. So there would be something for everyone to enjoy. We would not be competing with Oak Lane. It would really be complementary. There's a big gap between getting people that don't golf to a traditional 18-hole golf course. There's a huge gap there, and we want to fill that gap with Nexus Golf. It's much less intimidating and inviting for anybody to come. You could just play the 3 practice roll holes and take an hour of your time, even a half hour of your time, instead of going out for a 5-hour round of golf. So we really feel like, and we're different. We're not a traditional golf course. So we really feel like competing with Oak Lane. It seems like this is probably going to be the only way to bring golf back to the property for those that do want golf on the property, since we know it was already voted down to bring golf back on the entire parcel. It's a very quick turnaround, probably than a lot of other options for the town to open a business, because the land already has been a golf course. It's got the nuts and the bolts and the foundation to be a golf course. We just need to fix it up, clean it up, and build our simulator shed. So it would be quick for the town for a turnaround. Jobs for Woodbridge residents. There's a lot of part-time jobs that golf courses need to find people for. So we would be looking to hire Woodbridge residents, moms in particular, that have flexible schedules in between taking the kids to school, picking them up, activities. So there's a lot of opportunity there. And our business there, we would bring more increased interest to the town, the property, increase the value for other uses of the property, whatever the town chooses to do for it.
Yeah, I really think that, just for example, of a developer, I think having a golf course on the property doesn't make it less desirable for a developer. I think it makes it more desirable. I think people in general want to be, close to some action, right? They don't want to live in a sleepy, maybe some people do, but a lot of people would probably enjoy having something walkable. Leave their backyard, hop on a hiking trail, and be at the golf course in 5-10 minutes. So we think actually it helps the value of the property, and will probably help you guys do something else with it. We really believe that. Now, we don't have to go into details here too much, but I know you guys asked me last time, what are you thinking for lease, or leasing this? How much money can your business afford? So, we have a business plan. We've done a lot of work on our business plan. We've studied golf courses. I have friends that own golf courses. I've crunched the numbers. I really believe that our company is going to make a lot more money than regular golf course, but I do have to pad the numbers somewhat and plan for less than optimal, results. But even when I do that, there's enough money in our budget to handle what I show here, which I think is an example of what a fair market, lease price might be. And I didn't just do it arbitrarily. And when I negotiate, because I do it as part of my job, I don't throw out lowball numbers. I go right to what's a number that might make sense for both parties, and let's base it on facts, not someone's opinion. So I've thrown some facts in there. I've kind of shown, hey, based on our size versus the size of the other golf course in town, what they pay in taxes. So you'd want to make at least that much money in from us to cover what taxes might be. And then, of course, we're using your land, which you're paying money for. I don't know the details of how much you're paying and your interest rates and all that, but just doing some crunching of numbers of leasing the land based on just kind of some known standards, which is golf courses. If you were to buy one, they cost about $100,000 a hole. I mean, that number is proven time and time again. In fact, it was proven with the sale of Woodhaven Country Club just a few months ago. They asked about $1 million. They got $840,000 for 81 acres. There's another golf course for sale that's up our way. They're asking they're going to probably get about $2 million for 164 acres. That's just what golf course is going for. So I ran the numbers that way, add it all up. We can support a lease payment, certainly of $7,000 a month, which adds up to about $84,000 a year. And I know you guys know this, but $84,000 from us is a lot better than, trying to get $84,000 from, for example, residential, because for every dollar you're bringing into residential, I don't know the numbers, but I'm sure certainly most of that goes as an expense to cover the people that move to your town. So you'd probably take 20 or 30 houses to generate $84,000 of pure, profit that goes to the town. So that's a number you guys asked for. That's what we, certainly we would talk more about this if we go forward, but we can handle that kind of money in a lease payment.
Are there at this point, the other slides we've included are just to give a little bit more detail and more extra. So that kind of ends our presentation portion. If I don't know if we have time for questions, or if anybody has any specific questions or things they'd like to ask or discuss.
Thank you very much. We always have time for questions, especially from the board, because that's why you guys are here. So with that, I will open it up to questions. And I see Sandy's already raised her hand, so you're first. Go ahead.
Great. Well, thank you so much for that presentation. I have to say, I've never known much about golf in general, and this idea is very intriguing. My question to you is, have you established one of these courses somewhere else? And the second part of it is, what is your access to the capital that you will need to get started on this project?
Yep, thank you. Great question. So no, we have not established this elsewhere. You know, we had maybe had an opportunity last year to go somewhere else and start it, but we did not. It's a very new idea. It's a patented idea. And my patent was just granted months ago. So weren't quite ready to do it. So this will be our first take. It's part of the reason we are going in phases. We wouldn't, we don't plan for failure, but you have to think of all angles, and we've spent a lot of time thinking. We've spent a lot of time analyzing. So our phased approach actually allows us, to get it out there, to get the data, to see how it works, to troubleshoot the technical part of it, because a lot of technology goes into this. So phase one is going to allow us to do that on those 3 holes. And regarding the capital, that's also another reason we're doing it in phases. Banks are not very friendly to golf businesses. They think that they stink, and they don't want to talk about them. We have perfect 800 credit. We have a ton of equity in a couple of houses. We have money in the bank. They won't talk to us about financing. So it left us with fund it ourselves or get investors. And we've had a lot of very positive discussions with investors who are showing interest. Like you asked, Sandy, they said, "Hey, have you proven it yet? I want to physically play Nexus golf." So that's why we're building it. The capital for the first phase one is completely on us. It's going to be completely paid for, cash in hand. $1.2 million is what we're putting into this thing from our own pockets. And that's without taking out loans. That is money we're putting into it. We feel that strongly in this concept. We know this is the future of golf, and we are going to take golf to the future. The second phase, we will need financing or investing. So with that said, perfect world would start phase 2, August of 21. If it's a little slow getting investors, we would have to ask Woodbridge that we start it in August of 22.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I have a couple of questions. You mentioned in your presentation renovating existing buildings.
That was for the maintenance sheds, not the old clubhouse. We know you've said before that needs to be torn down. So yeah, that is not it.
Yeah, it's in total disrepair at this point. And as far as are you going to require any kind of sprinkler system? Because there is one that is there now, as I understand, in not great shape, but I'm not sure.
Yes, we definitely would need sprinkler system. So we would have to, look more into what it's going to take to get it up and running again.
Yeah.
We budgeted kind of the worst case scenario. We're hoping it's in better shape than we think. But yes, we need new sprinklers. They're going to be in lots of new locations. We'd be lucky to salvage very much, but we would love it if we could.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else from the board have other questions?
Patty, just a quick question that I have. Have you anticipated what kind of volumes you'll be doing or will be needing in order for this to be considered successful and for you to proceed and be able to grow?
Yep, thank you, Meek. So, like I said, I've done a ton of investigation, a ton of studying. I actually have a lot of connections in the golf industry. I know I'm friends with golf owners that own courses. I'm friends with people that have lost golf courses for not being successful. And I know a lot of other people in the industry. So just numbers wise, kind of a rule of thumb with the golf courses, if you can do 24,000 rounds in a year, you can turn a profit if you're smart about how you run your business. I know the former Woodbridge, I've looked at the numbers. I know you guys did pretty well in a few years, doing upwards of 30,000 rounds. So in my calculations, I'm assuming less than optimal. So I've run my numbers at 22,000 rounds a year. So kind of less than the average. And even at less than the average, we can sustain this business because our expenses are just so much less. We don't need as many people. We don't need as much land. We don't need as much chemicals. Our costs are much lower. So I think 22,000 rounds a year can easily support this business.
There's a different type of similar. I don't know that I can call it similar. But thing that I'm aware of is that. Can you draw any parallels to what you're doing as far as that's concerned?
So you cut the audio definitely cut out, Mika, while you're talking. But similarities to which type of business? Top
Golf is something that strikes me as similar, but I understand there's a big difference.
Right. So we talk about Topgolf. We look at them and research them a lot. They are a big name in our business plan, and we use them as a competitor. And the biggest difference is that Topgolf is really geared, it's more a social thing where you swing a golf club. It's not, I don't think anybody would go to Topgolf and spend an hour or two there and say, I feel like I play golf. You're swinging a golf club, you're aiming at the target, but you are not, you don't have the goal of these shots to get in that hole. So although it is a fantastic way to get people swinging a golf club and get exposure to, you might want to pursue getting out on a real golf course, that's kind of where it ends. It's more of the social with an intro to golf versus getting the people out on the golf course, swinging the club, trying to, see how many shots it takes them to get to the hole, being outdoors on the physical grass. And so that's a great question, because we feel like we are the in-between. We're where there's the huge void between something like Topgolf and a traditional course. We want that space. We feel like we are that space in between where people might try it at Topgolf, say, hey, I want to try this, but I don't have 5 hours. But wait, there's this other option. There's Nexus Golf. I can play in half the time and see if I like it. And then if I like it, I'll move on to a traditional golf course and go from there.
But we like Topgolf because it proved that there can be, there's room and there's a way to be a golf business and not be a traditional golf course, and to have success.
And that there's a lot of people out there that are willing to try it. They just don't have most likely the time to get on a real golf course, a traditional golf course.
Thank you.
Can I just make sure I understand the model, since I'm not a golfer? So it's shorter because for each hole that you play, the first few strokes are simulation, and then you actually go physically out onto the green and do the last few holes in real time.
Yes. I mean, great. Yeah, you kind of nailed it. Yes. Okay. So basically, if you look at any given hole, the longer holes that are on a golf course, half of that hole only exists in the virtual world. The other half exists in the physical world. And then there's a transition when you go from the virtual world to the physical world. That's part of my patent. That is kind of really cool. But you step out of the simulator into the real world, and then you start to play the rest of that hole. And you do it in an 18-hole round of golf. You would do that 12 times because you have 12 long holes and then 6 short holes on most golf courses. And we think young people and people that like technology will love what we're doing. And if you ever played golf, the tee shot is the hardest and most uncomfortable and stressful shot there is. We think being inside a simulator where people aren't looking at you, and then hitting into the simulator, which also gives you a lot of scientific data about your golf swing. There's a bunch of huge benefits. So we are positive that people aren't going to look at it like a negative. They're going to look at it like a positive that they get to hit one of their shots in the simulator.
Apparently seen my tee shot.
Okay. Anyone else from the Board of Selectmen have any questions for Patty or Tim at this point? Tony or Jerry, do you have any comments on this at this point, or should we'll take up this discussion, I guess, next month, because we have some more information probably to gather. I would ask the Selectmen if you have other questions for us to get to, please. And we'll probably wait for resident comments, etc.? I'm sure there will be a few.
I have no questions, Beth.
Okay, thanks, Jerry. How about Tony? Anything at this point?
I do not at this point.
Okay, so I will ask the selectmen if they'd like to continue the discussion next month, or anything you want to deal
I
with
think
this.
that's a great idea. I think this is a really interesting and very innovative option for us. And I really appreciate all the time that Tim and Patty have put into creating this for the Woodbridge Golf Course specifically, and in terms of their time trying to actualize what this model is. So thanks, Tim and Patty.
All right, thank you.
Thank you guys for
Thank
the
you so
time.
much.
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
stay tuned. We'll be in touch again.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you very much. I haven't missed anything, right? Item 5 is public comments. And under public comments, as of today at 3 p.m., we received 73 letters, as I mentioned before, opposed to the cell tower at 118 Newton Road, and 1 letter in favor of such. Additionally, we received, as of 3 p.m. today, 2 letters in opposition to the fire department shed, and 1 letter regarding the library reopening, with a response to this letter from the head librarian. And as Sandy reported this evening, we're moving forward with that. Again, first week in November, is that correct? Yeah, okay. Thank you. I can assure everyone that the Board of Selectmen have received all the letters as part of their packets. These letters are all in our packets and are available to anyone as part of the public record for public inspection by calling Town Hall, and they will be copied and emailed to anyone who requests them. Additionally, as I said before, Mrs. Shaw will have every single one of these on the town website when she files the minutes. She has assured me that that's what she will do. So they are all part of the public record. So with that, because we were in the middle of COVID, we're not doing in-person public comments at this point. So I thank you all for that.
Just a quick question for Jerry, but just as a clarification point for my own purposes, if we're getting emails directly just to us in regards to this or any other item, is it something we should forward to your office, or just respond?
No, you can respond.
Just for clarification purposes.
You can respond individually if you want to any one of the residents of the town who sends you an email.
Thank you.
Usually when they send to me, they've sent to all the Board of Selectmen. I've noticed.
Right.
I think you got them all that we got. So I'm assuming there are no duplicates that I didn't get or Jerry Shaw didn't get. So it's a I'll just share with the public. This is the packet. So this is public comments. So there's a lot of them.
Right.
So everyone's aware. Thank you.
I think that there is an issue that Mika's bringing up in terms of there are many emails that each of us have probably received individually, but we don't know if they were actually sent also to you. And so, I mean, I have been responding to those, but I don't know if you have also received them. So I guess the question is, what would you like to do with that?
Anything, you should send them directly to Jerry Shaw. She has this pile and is compiling it, so she can check if they are duplicates or not. So most of them, I think, did go to me and to you as well, because I know most residents took the time to write to each one of us individually. Which was very nice. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So she'll confirm if there's duplicates so that we don't want to lose anything. Obviously, it's very important. Okay, thank you very much. Let's see, we're moving on. Wow, item 6, update ad hoc Thomas Darling Advisory Committee. Dick Blackwell, I see a DB here.
And there, he's unmuted now.
And I'll let him in.
Okay. Am I ready?
We're ready for you, Dick. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. I'd like to give the Board of Selectmen an update tonight. The Darling Property Advisory Committee's progress to date. As you recall, at the last Board of Selectmen meeting on September 9, the Board approved the complete summary of Darling Property's prioritized projects as summarized in your 3-page project handout. Since then, progress has been made in 4 areas that I'd like to briefly cover. One is removing rotting trees and limbs, which is number 3 urgent project. There were 3 urgent projects and volunteer projects number 4 and 5, which were outbuildings cleanup and remove weeds and overgrowth. On September 22, 2 advisory committee members, 4 Amity Woodbridge Historical Society members, and 3 town staff conducted a property walkthrough to detail the specific work needed. Also, septic leaching fields were identified to ensure against heavy equipment damage. As shown in your other 3-page handout entitled Project Scope, 6 rotted trees were designated for removal, 8 trees for limbing, and a pear tree for trimming. Also, removal of specific vines, overgrowth, and underbrush from the cow barn and along the stone wall from the back parking lot north about 220 feet. All of this work will be completed by Chris Sorensen's landscaping crew by October 31. The $3,000 cost for this work is funded by a donation by Dick Blackwell to the town of Woodbridge, which has already been made. Remaining debris cleanup of outbuildings and landscaping work on the project list are being handled by the Amity Woodbridge Historical Society with completion by October 31. Beyond the preceding work, the Parks Department on September 23 removed from the grounds items designated for removal by the society, and that this consisted of the chicken coop overhang and rotted fence and pallets outside the chicken coop. Items left by the prior tenant, such as cinder blocks, sandbags, pipes, etc., if not removed by October 31, will be removed by the town beginning November 9, and Ethan Schneider has agreed to this timing. The second area is schoolhouse removal from the cow barn, which is noted as item 1 of the 3 urgent projects. One person has expressed interest in taking it. Tony Genovese told me this afternoon that an individual by the name of Sam wants to take it as is, but is not sure how to take it out. I told Tony that Chris Sorensen has volunteered to take it out. Plus, we prefer that removal method to ensure no damage to the barn or the antiques. He will tell Sam this information, and Sam has agreed to sign a waiver that will protect the town. If Sam doesn't take it, Tony is planning a contaminant assessment around October 23rd to the 26th in that time frame to determine an approved disposal method, which would take place in early November. During the removal process, the society will inventory the contents and assess whether to keep or dispose of any of the contents. The third area is lead assessment for the property grounds and outbuildings, which was noted as item 2 under urgent projects. Todd Levine of the State Historic Preservation Office in our last night committee meeting recommended that the committee and society define a process and long-range plans to enable tapping into Connecticut grant money for this, which is remediation, and other purposes such as preservation of the cow, ice, and horse barns. As next steps, Rick Weiss, who's the committee's pro bono consultant and is well-versed in preservation regulations and grant opportunities, will contact Alexia this week to define next steps. Also, Tony Genovese told me that there are existing studies on ground contamination, and he's going to retrieve those studies to serve as a basis for any future work. Okay, 4 is volunteerism. Todd suggested it would be helpful to make the public more aware of the need for volunteers to help preserve the Darling property. This could be done via announcements in the local media and newsletters, which would direct interested parties to the Amity Woodbridge Historical Society website, which also designates how to apply as a volunteer. In this whole category of volunteerism, repair and painting of the picket fence, which was noted as item 2 of the volunteer projects, I had volunteered to do this, my family, and I submitted a plan to the society, which they responded to, that basically said that to properly preserve the fencing while remediating the rot and preserving the heritage plantings, professionals should be used. I agreed to that and asked the society to recommend an appropriate professional and cost estimate, which I have agreed to donate funding for via a donation to the town of Woodbridge. In closing, I believe the committee and society are making good progress in working together to accomplish more for the property. The State Historic Preservation Office, which is known as SHPO, has expressed optimism that the Darling property, as one of the few unique examples of a working colonial era farm that has not been altered, provides a unique opportunity to tap into grant funding for preservation. So that concludes the presentation. Are there any questions?
I just like to make a comment. Dick, thank you for chairing this committee. I've attended several of the meetings. I think we are indeed making progress. Everything is slow, as we know, but we are doing well, and I think you've made real good progress. And I want to thank you also for your monetary support of the Darling House to get some of these things done. And there was a question last week regarding whether or not we needed to have a specific vote to proceed with the part. Some tapping. Is it me? Anybody hear that tapping, or am I crazy?
No, I hear it as well.
Okay, thank you. It stopped. Okay, good. I think that when we, later on in the agenda, we vote to approve the transfer funds from your donation toward this project, that will signify that the Board of Selectmen approves this project. Is that okay? Does that sound reasonable to everyone? Jerry? Tony?
Yep, yes.
Okay, all right. So that'll solve that. Okay, so Dick, we'll do that later on in the evening. I don't assume there'll be any issue against it, but thank you very much. And we'll move on. Keep up the good work, and thank everybody on the committee. Thank you. Anyone have any questions I should have asked? No, Sandy, do you have a question or just saying?
I'm just saying, good. Thank you for providing all the detail. I think it's important to understand the progress, and I think that we definitely are moving forward in a very collaborative manner with the Historical Society, and it's a step-by-step process.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better. Thank you. Okay. With that, we'll move on to item 7, discussion regarding a town planner and action as appropriate. Betsy and Tony and I, as you know, I'll just preface this with, there's a lot of initiatives and things that have been put on the back burner for quite a while because of COVID. And we're starting to little by little come out of the fog, for lack of a better term, and start to do some of these initiatives. The problem is, and I've said this for a while, there are things that I think we could have already had in place had we had a town planner to help us with some of these things. I guess Betsy and Tony can elaborate because they're sort of the boots on the ground with some of these day-to-day things. I'm there and they make me aware of things that we have to talk about and discuss. But sometimes it's helpful to have a planner to help you with some of these things. We have on the agenda later on, for example, the zoning application that we're going to talk a little bit about that just came in a couple of weeks ago, or I don't know when it was, perhaps a couple of weeks ago. And had we had a town planner in place already, that might have been something we would look to a town planner to advise us upon. There are other things that have come up over the last few months. So I just wanted to talk about it a little bit with the board. And maybe Betsy and Tony can elaborate a little on how they feel about this. I'm okay either way. If the board chooses not to do it at this time, we also have the possibility of doing a land use analyst, hiring that person as well regarding the country club property. So there's a lot of moving parts, and I understand that, but I just sort of wanted to bring this up tonight to begin to have a discussion on it. We don't have to make a decision tonight. If you feel you want to wait, I'm okay with that too. So with that, I'll mute myself for a minute and let Betsy or Tony, actually, Tony, why don't you start and then we'll go to Betsy, please.
Sure. There's just been a number of items that have come up where a planner on a part-time basis could be helpful to us, and that's with the 2030 committee that we've just recently formed. There's the certain economic development or housing matters that may come up. There is the country club, as you indicated, and there are grant opportunities that sometimes require some planning that we either don't have the opportunity to do, or we have to, for instance, the bike and pedestrian proposal, which could have required some additional assistance. So it could have been done, it was a great job, but could have required some help to get that quicker to you. But that's just some examples that we've come up with. Betsy, I don't know if you have any others.
Not really, but I think the other thing a planner could really help with is we have a lot of really great, worthwhile reports that have been done, but we don't have the staffing capability and time to make sure that the reports are all followed through on. So there's a lot of thought and effort that goes into some of these plans, specifically the POCD, the beautification plan that you recently approved 2 years ago, I think, that there just isn't the staff time to follow through on these things and make sure that they're happening in a timely fashion. So I think that would be another real big benefit of having a planner on staff.
I can assure you that our staff is working at full capacity. I talk to them on weekends. Now, COVID is settling down a little bit, and we're beginning to come out of it as I come out of the fog a little bit. But there's a lot to be done. We don't have a grant writer. Those are good opportunities to get money. And just in the past week, for example, we've gotten 3 or 4 opportunities for grants. It would be great if we had someone to help us with those. They're not related to a specific department, for example. So when we see something that we really think we need, we make the time and we take the time. But there's others that we just say there's no time. It's due in 4 or 5 days. We hear about these things sometimes from the state, and they want them in a New York minute, and there's no time to put it together. These require a lot of time and effort. Steep grants are few and far between. We did get that in, and there are some obviously related to the Darling House, but it's very difficult, and I think it would be necessary and helpful to have that. It's a part-time position, and if you guys want to think about it for another month. So I guess what I've said all I have to say. I'm being duplicative here, so I'll just open it up for discussion at this point.
So what is your concept of whether this is a consultant versus an employee of the town? And if it's an employee position, how many hours is it? And what is the funding source that you want to be able to use?
So I can
go ahead, Tony. Thank you.
I could just say that the hours we were thinking were 8 to 10 hours a week. So not a ton initially. And we were thinking a part-time employee, which could help in a variety of matters, which could be in addition to or complement a consultant. If you have a specific matter like the country club, you want some additional land use discussion, they could complement each other. But for a variety of other matters, it would be on an as-needed basis, probably 8 to 10 hours. And the initial funding request, although that could be changed, the initial funding was taken from the funds that were collected for that were done from the asset sale of the country club that you have earmarked for a consultant for land use. So we can choose a different route. We can think about it. You can, there's other ways to do the funding. That was just one suggestion.
Okay. I mean, I definitely think that there are enough ways for someone with, town planning experience and expertise to assist the town in terms of really being able to follow through on a number of projects and the types of reports that you've mentioned in terms of really actualizing all the work that really went into thinking through what are the options for us. I'm a little leery about using the funds that we set aside for the country club property because I feel like that's perhaps a different set of skills that's needed to help us look at how do we turn that into something for recreational use for the town. And I think if we start to deplete those funds, we don't have them available to help us with that.
So if that's something that you're looking to start sooner rather than later, we can certainly get an idea of how much that would cost. and we can identify another funding source if that, it proves that you need the entire amount.
Right. And I don't know necessarily, Tony.
I don't know either.
I think it's just something that we have to consider. And I don't know what other funding sources there might be.
I would have to look into that. I try not to tap into contingency this early in the year.
Of course.
As you would understand. So I have to look into what other options are available. Can certainly get back to you on that.
Okay. But I do like the idea. And I mean, the town used to have a town planner.
Right.
Many years ago.
Right.
And it may pay to tap into that person in terms of this construct of a part-time person. And would we expect that person would be able to assist us with the country club as well? Or are those different skills? I think his name was Andy, but I can't remember his last name. Anyway, I'll let the other selectmen.
Anyone else have any other comments?
Beth, I agree with what Sandy's saying in particular. I understand that there's a need. Obviously, you wouldn't present it if there was not. But I do feel like the land use for the country club is something that we should save for that and actually look toward utilizing that, particularly as opportunities come in terms of how that land, for example, the proposal we just saw and things of that nature. So be somebody who could work hand in hand with this part-time individual that you're talking about to really get things moving in that regard.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else have any comments or questions? I think it's probably, we can put this off. We'll try to get more information on the cost of both and what define for perhaps setting aside, because if it's only, I think there's $25,000 for that. So we have, this is whatever, 10,000 or something, and we need 15. We got to figure out the land use analyst versus the, maybe it could be the same person for both. Maybe it could be two individuals. So we'll get some more information and we'll come back. How does that sound?
I mean, I really appreciate your bringing this forward because I think it is an important void that we have.
That's a way to put it. It's a void that we would have that we think would be benefit from filling.
Right. Yeah. In addition to that, I mean, grant writing alone, we can make it back. The cost in some ways. We need a grants writer, someone to do this. It's just there's no time for anybody to do this kind of stuff. So,
well, I think we also have difficulty sometimes solidifying plans.
Yeah.
And so I would anticipate that this person would really help us again to actualize ideas that have already been developed for the town, and that may involve some grant writing. But I do believe that really looking at it from a planning perspective and beyond each individual proposal to coalesce all the different ideas would be very beneficial for the town.
Sounds good. Does anyone have any other?
Yeah, if we can get a list of all the responsibilities for each, what you're looking for the town planner, what we're going to be looking for them to do, as well as the consultant for the club, that would be very helpful as well.
We have a draft the job description. An excellent suggestion. I'll definitely get that.
Yeah, we haven't seen it. I haven't seen it. So if you can maybe share that, that would be helpful.
Certainly, absolutely.
Okay, so we'll keep this on the front burner and bring it back next month, hopefully, when we get all this data. Thank you very much. Okay, moving along. Are we up to number 8? Everybody keeping an eye on Beth. She's okay. Tired. 8 Administrative Office Report. Director of Finances Report. Tony, number 8.
This is our first quarter report for the fiscal year 2021. There's a typo in the first paragraph. This is for our monthly report through September of 2020. It's certainly an interesting year, as you all know, due to the pandemic and the impact on the budget. And so I wanted to just report to you how we are doing so far in the first quarter. So Projection has a total projected budgetary deficit of $243,000. And that combined with our annual $400,000 contribution to fund balance to balance the budget would leaves our projected fund balance of $5.8 million, which is down from $6.5 million. We basically have to take those two factors into account, and that leaves us at about 11.7% of our expenditures. Of our fund balance is at 11.7% of our expenditures, so it's down a little. And I wanted to highlight some of those reasons. Whenever I put a projection together, I'm conservative on my projections. So just, hopefully things will improve. Try to be more conservative when I report to you. The first is tax collections. Our tax collections for the first quarter are doing very well, actually. We, as an example, the current tax collections for the we've collected 54.9% of our budget through September 30th. Okay, so that means that just under 60% of our taxes have been collected so far, and the rest will come in throughout the year. Most of which will come in January. This time last year, we were at 54.5%, and the year before 54.6%. So actually, we've collected a little more this year than we have in the past. We've collected a few large back tax collections. That was very helpful. And in addition, the town collected all but one real estate and a few motor vehicle accounts from the deferred program that you enacted in over the summer. So of all the accounts that were deferred to October 1st, we've collected all of them except for one real estate account. So that worked out very well. And I think people were very appreciative of that. So we have not seen an impact to our tax collections so far as a result of the pandemic or the downturn in the economy. And that's our largest source of revenue, as you all know. So that's very good news. Our investment income has taken a hit so far. There's a deficit there. That's one of our larger deficits, about $90,000. Just to give you an example, the rates were about 0.5% when we set the budget in May, and they were at the beginning of last year they were over 2%, and now they're under 0.1%. So the short-term rates have not come back as we had hoped they would, but we will keep an eye on those and let you know. We are applying for FEMA grant, but it's actually a combination of a FEMA grant and a funds from the state of Connecticut, which are pass-through funds by the federal government. So it's they're all federal funds, but from different sources. And so we've got about $120,000 to $130,000 in reimbursements that we're applying for that are related to COVID and that are through June 30th. That is not included in this application or in this projection because we haven't received a award notice. And so until we do, I'm not likely to put it in there. Additionally, we are awaiting a FEMA designation on Storm Isaias, which is basically what FEMA has to do is collect all of the expenditures from the area and see if it meets a threshold for a reimbursement. And if it does, then we will apply through their process. At this point, we have costs of about $167,000 related to Storm Isaias. So it's essentially when we have a storm or expenditures of this nature in some of our departments, public works and or fire and or police, we try to cut back in other areas until we can see if there's funding identified to make up for that loss. So the department heads are very good at trying to balance their expenditures when a storm of that nature is impactful on their budget. The $167,000 does not include debris removal, which will be a large expense, and we'll probably have that for you next month. I'm hopeful that the FEMA award will also be next month, so that the debris removal will be not something we would have to pay for out of our taxes. Our charge for services are experienced a deficit of about $60,000. This is due to the shortfall in transfer station fees primarily. because the bulky waste per ton fee, which has not been adopted, was in the budget. So that's sort of the impact of that. And as you're all aware, we had that discussion about the putting that off at least for a while. Hopefully this will be offset. However, in other areas, we are doing very well on our town clerk fees, conveyance taxes, building permits. So all those are on budget and hopefully will generate even a little bit of a surplus this year. The amount of activity in the town clerk fees and conveyance taxes and also building permits is quite surprising, actually. For expenditures, many of the departments are coming in within budget. And this is significant because there were program cuts, as you recall, in the library, human services, and recreation. And all three of those department heads have done an excellent job of staying within those cuts, staying within those budgetary restrictions, and communicating with me on a regular basis. For instance, the library, what impact does opening for 10 hours have on his budget? Can he do it within his budget? Yes, but if he opens up further, then he may need to hire some additional staff, and then he would come to me and we'd get funding, and that's sort of how that would work. So all the departments have done an excellent job of keeping within their budget and monitoring their expenditures, the library, human services, and recreation in particular. So I just wanted to mention that. The election, there's a deficit anticipated most likely in the election of about $40,000 to $42,000. We have received about $12,000 in grants. And so the idea is for a transfer in November to cover the additional expenditures related to the election. We're not 100% sure, since everyone's doing such a great job and working hard on very unknown situations. So we're hopeful that we can cover, we're trying to get additional funding from the state to cover the portion of that deficit. So right now it's about $30,000 if you take the difference between the two. And so hopefully we can get that down a little. And I'll report that in November. Finally, two more items. Our benefits are expected to generate a surplus of $43,000. We had lower than anticipated workers' compensation premium. And finally, as you heard earlier, the Board of Education is reporting a year-end projection deficit of $136,000. I pressed upon the Board of Education, and they're doing a great job of communicating this on a regular basis, as you indicated in the earlier in the meeting. And I think that's important so that it can be part of the overall picture that you see for the town, so you can see everybody understands what the deficits or surpluses are and how they fit together. So they've been communicating that, and I think that's was a good positive step forward. And so, are there any questions?
Okay, thank you, Tony.
Okay.
Moving on, item B, funding request. You have in your packet, let me flip the pages here, sorry. There. Okay, 2021-05. It's a line item transfer in the amount of $3,000. This is the item related to the funding.
That's correct.
And it's my understanding that we will agree if this is approved from Dick Blackwell to the Thomas Darlingham budget for the tree work, that will signify that the Board of Selectmen has approved the project going forward, in case there's any questions. So I'll make a motion that we approve this as presented. Is there a second?
Okay.
Thank you, Joe. Any questions or discussions on this? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And we're done. Okay. Everybody's okay if I just do a calling all the vote rather than calling on you each individually, right? Okay. In the interest of time. All right, thank you. The next one is 2021-06 in the amount of $10,000. This request is to hire a part-time blight officer to assist the town in blight matters and enforcement of the blight ordinance. The money is coming from the Selectman's Office, General Professional Services. I'll just give a little history and correct me if I'm wrong, Tony, but if you recall when the untimely, unfortunate death of our building official, Terry Gilbertson, he used to do that as part of his full-time position. And we ended up going with a different model where we now have a part-time building official, Andy Rizzo, and a part-time land use analyst, Christine Sullivan.
Full-time.
She's full-time, sorry. You're right. Okay, and then the problem is that the blight sometimes, although it's a tricky wicket, I guess, as they say, neither one of them agreed. They just handle it. We always talked about doing this once we could find someone. And then we had identified a person who was willing. Tony and I interviewed someone, and then problem was COVID hit, and it just went on a back burner. Another project that just had to be wait because there was no point in doing this. We continue to receive calls. I do. The building office does with people who are unhappy about. They report blight to us, and we have found someone. We hope that will be able to take this on. It's a part-time position. As needed, I guess. Correct, Tony?
Yes, and again, we don't anticipate, I mean, some weeks will be more than others, but I can't imagine on average it would be more than 6 to 8 hours a week.
Right. As these things come up, it would be nice to have someone so that Christine or Andy don't have to do this, because we've always talked about this, if you recall, I hope, when Mr. Gilbertson passed away. So with that, I'll move that we approve it. And then we can have a discussion, obviously. So I'll move approval of line item transfer 2021-06 in the amount of $10,000. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Now, does anyone have any questions or further discussion on this?
So who is the new flight officer?
We haven't appointed anybody or hired. We still have people.
Tony, I'm sorry. I couldn't hear you, Tony.
It went out.
I'm getting a lot of feedback. So we haven't actually, we've interviewed one person, and we want to just make sure there are no others out there that are interested. And then, so we still have a few more procedural steps to go through, but before we took any more steps, we wanted to just make sure there was an interest.
Got it, because I guess it should go to personnel, right? I was just...
No, personnel doesn't get involved in part-time employees. They just hire full-time. We could certainly bring it to your for your review if you'd like us to. It's not.
I'm happy to bring it next month if we have it by then, and I'm happy before we hire the person if you'd like to review it. I have no problem with that.
What's his qualifications, Tony? What would you? What would you?
Officer in another community. Is the one person we interviewed is an officer in another community? But the reason why we won't bring part-time employees is just because there's sometimes a lot of them, and generally the board in the past has not been wanted to see part-time, but we'd be more than happy to bring it to personnel if you think that's helpful.
I don't know. It's Joe. I would just think, notwithstanding the part-time nature, the fact that it's an officer, it's someone with.
I agree. I agree. It's an important position, even though it's part-time. Yeah.
Yes, I think it should be reviewed before. Yeah.
Certainly. Okay, we can certainly do that.
So what I would recommend, perhaps, if we can do this, is we'll get the funding in place, and then we won't hire the person till we talk to the rest of the board. So we'll amend the motion a little bit to say pending approval of the Board of Selectmen. How does that sound?
Well, there's two different questions. The first question is, do you want to fund the position? And then the second question is, if you want to fund it, you can do them all at once and just put this on the table until you hire the position. You can do it that way too, I suppose.
I'm at the pleasure of the board.
Doesn't matter either way. Yeah.
Mika, I know you're talking, but you gotta unmute yourself.
Yeah, no, I saw. Sorry about that. I thought I understood the question to be about going to the personnel committee as opposed to being approved by the board if we approve the funding. Did I misunderstand that?
Well, so there's two separate things. There's the funding for the position, right?
Understand.
Right. And then there's a hiring process for the position. So the funding, there are two, as far as I'm concerned, there are two separate procedures.
But the motion is for the funding.
Funding only, correct. Motion's for the funding only. But if you want them to wait on the funding until you make sure you have someone you're comfortable with, you can do that. or you can do the funding now and then we can go through the process to hire next month.
From my perspective, there's no reason not to approve the funding if we want to actually hire someone. And it just moves the process along so that when you find the person, it goes to personnel, then we can proceed with that. There's no point in going back and forth.
Yeah, but wouldn't it go back to the Board of Selectmen even though that the person is recommended through the Personnel Committee?
Yeah, generally.
It would go back to the Board of Selectmen, so the Personnel Committee would look at the recommendation.
Correct.
In the thing, and then we would then go to the Board of Selectmen, more than likely that night, and we would present the candidate.
But the advantage is that if the finances are already taken care of, because the Board of Finance has to approve.
Correct.
I'm okay with the funding.
At least that gets taken care of. And then we proceed the way we want with the actual hiring the person.
I'm okay with the funding too, so that's fine.
Just so I understand, the board is in agreement that, just before we call the question, the board is in agreement that we do the funding this evening, perhaps, and then what are you going to do? It's going to go to, even though it's a part-time person, this person's going to get interviewed by personnel?
Yes.
And then to the board? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. That I understand. I just want to make sure we got it right so I don't screw it up. Okay, wonderful. So I will call funding for this position person. Please signify by saying
Aye.
Aye.
anyone opposed to the funding? Sounds like it's unanimous. Okay, fine. And we'll get back to you next month. We'll have a personnel committee meeting, hopefully, and we'll go from there. Okay, thank you very much. Is there another one, Tony? Yeah, there is.
There is. There's one more. You're gonna put on hold number 7. That one that's the planner. That one you put on hold, or you could just.
Yeah. Okay. So the next one is 2021-08, correct?
Correct.
In the amount of $15,000 to secure the main clubhouse and the pool at the former country club of Woodbridge from trespass. Tony, if you don't mind, I'd like you to give a history of what you told me is going on over there for the entire board, please.
Okay. So the maintenance department has secured a lot of the clubhouse from trespass. That would be the doors, the lower level windows, the maintenance facility, areas that people can access the facility. And so they've done that. However, there's been additional attempts to try to damage the facility even further. Mainly the windows on the upper level. I don't know if you recall the facility, but people are trying to break the windows on the upper level of the facility. Some of the windows which are quite large, and there's large pieces of glass that have fallen and making, it's quite a dangerous situation over there. That's one issue. So we need to secure all of the windows. There's a lot of windows on that facility, and so it's really a shame. But and I've asked the police to do additional, and they have done additional drive-bys, but it continues. And so that's one aspect. And the other aspect is, unfortunately, the pool. There's been some attempts to try to rip the cover off, or pull the cover off, or throw heavy objects into the cover, or whatever, what have you. And so we met with our building official out there also, who knows a lot about properties that are in this shape. And his recommendation, actually his more than a recommendation, is that we need to secure the perimeter of the pool with a fence that's 8 feet high, just to prevent anyone from, even though we empty the pool, anyone falling into the pool or getting injured in the pool. And even when it rains, it'll fill up with water, and so those are the main sort of issues.
So Tony, with regard to the fence, 8 feet is not that high. You can easily get a ladder. I mean, I think it just creates a new challenge for someone to.
You could be right. You could be right. It would take a lot more to you could fill in the pool, and then you got to compact the pool down. You have to take all the fencing down, and probably the frame for the only way to get. We looked into this actually to get it. Take the frame down for the tent, to get equipment in there to fill the pool in and compact it, because otherwise, if the dirt is loose, the rain would cause it to be unstable. I mean, there's other ways to do it besides a fence. That was just what Andy's recommendation was.
I mean, I'm not looking to spend more money. It's just, you know, how effective will that 8-foot fence be? That's my question.
So, and I asked, we discussed this the consensus was in that an 8-foot fence is what would be our due diligence to try to secure the pool from someone getting injured or falling into the pool. So no fence is going to stop anybody from getting in, but an 8-foot fence.
So from have we checked with
liability perspective, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Great. I think that's what's important then.
Right. So we do due diligence to them to secure the pool. They climb an 8-foot fence, put 10-foot fence in, we'll climb a 10-foot.
So Tony?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't like the 8-foot fence. I think it's just gonna, like Sandy said, it's gonna be an issue that kids are gonna want to get over and whatever it is. Even though you have a fence there, even though you may have signage, you know, what would the cost be to fill it in? Has anybody looked at actually filling in the pool? It looks like it's never going to be used again. It's not going to be used and whatever, and that may be a better sense for safety for the town instead of having somebody get in there and accidentally drown, and then it's going to be an issue. That's all.
We have looked at that actually, and it's not a cost issue. I think it's what you just mentioned, which is we would have to take down some fencing and some framing, and then we'd fill in the pool, and it's no longer going to ever be used as a pool. I mean, because you'll fill it in, compact, but that would be it.
Is it ever going to be used? That's my question. Is it, you know, what's the feeling? Are we ever going to, resurrect the pool in that surrounding area? That's all.
I'm not sure exactly the cost. I'd have to get back to you, but I'm not sure it's going to be significantly different. As opposed to buying the fence, we'd have to buy the material and machinery and get the machinery in there.
No, I just think that filling it in would be a much safer thing. It's pretty quick. It could be done in like a few days, and, you know, and it will take away the liability for the town.
We could do it either way.
I know Tony and I talked at one point about, I came up with this crazy idea of a giant sandbox. What I worry about is could somebody sink into the sand and...
You have to compact the sand in a certain way.
I would worry about somebody suffocating. That's just, you know...
You have to compact it so that it doesn't happen.
You can compact it as you fill it up, you compact it.
Correct. Yeah.
So it's not a big deal. And and what you do is you break up the sides. You break up the sides, and then as you work your way up.
Right, correct.
The other question is, would it attract animals like cats? A giant litter box.
There's a lot of animals there as it is.
Yep.
It's like
I'm winging it now. I just don't know.
The carpenter ants are having a grand old time on that facility.
I defer to the experts. I have no. I don't know.
Yeah. Did Andy make a recommendation of the fence versus filling it in?
We didn't discuss. I didn't discuss actually the filling in with Andy. We were just talking about the fence because that was at the time.
So maybe it might pay to have that discussion again.
Sure. Yeah.
We could go ahead and approve the funding because it's a line item transfer and at least get that on the books.
That'd be helpful.
There could be some further discussion regarding filling in versus a fence.
So if he feels that it's filling it in is a more effective solution, or would you prefer that method?
I defer to the experts.
Yeah. If he feels that it's a more effective way to do it, the question is, does it cost twice as much?
That's fine.
or more. It's a lot of sand.
No, it's going to be dirt. It's not going to be sand. We're going to fill it in with dirt, and dirt's pretty cheap. So sand is very expensive. Dirt, you can get dirt and you fill it in pretty quick. I just feel I'm looking at more of a liability aspect for the town. The fence, as Sandy was saying, will be a challenge. It's gonna, kids are gonna want to climb over it.
Definitely have to do something because it's definitely an issue that we have to resolve.
I agree.
Soon, very soon.
So I would recommend that, again, we approve the funding because it's a line item transfer, and that Tony goes back to the Andy and our building official and ask about filling in versus the fence. And if there's any additional money needed, obviously that has to be found. But I think getting his perspective on both those options would be beneficial.
Okay, I will do that.
Anyone have any other comments on this? Okay, I will call the question line item transfer 2020 15,000. Did we do that correctly? Thank you. All in favor, please, by saying
Aye.
anyone opposed? I think we're good. Okay, thank you, guys. Last but not least, we have a bid waiver. Last but not least, but moving on. There's a memo in your packet dated October 5th. Warren Connors to Tony Genovese regarding a bid waiver to purchase treated salt. The product formerly known as Ice Beagle, now known as Bulk Blizzard Wizard, also made by Morton Salt, though, which I think is a riot. But anyway, I'll make a motion that we approve the bid waiver as proposed by Warren Connors in the memo. Is there a second? And then we can talk about it.
Second.
Thank you, Mika. Okay, Tony, you want to elaborate a little bit and anything exciting about it?
No, this is basically the treated salt product that we've used every year to treat the roads when it's a certain temperature to eliminate the ice condition that can result. And there are other products, as he indicates, which are either similar cost or actually a little more. And Warren likes the effect of this particular product in our climate. So this is what he's recommending. And we've done this for many years now.
Thank you. Anyone have any other comments or questions about this?
I would support Warren's recommendation.
Okay, hearing nothing else, I'll call the question. All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Thank you. And here we go again. Tony, do you have another other?
Nope, I'm all set. Thank you.
Why, now we're moving along. Okay, item 9, excuse me. Old firehouse renovation, possible action. You have in your packet a proposal from David Stein, I believe. Is that who wrote this?
Correct.
Turning pages here. In the amount of $17,700, adaptive reuse of the former firehouse. This is to do services listed above, which is, I guess, construction design documents. Maybe, Tony, you're better at this than me.
So he,
Thank you. Thank you.
And it's to put together the documents that would be necessary for a referendum, which is the adaptive reuse of the former fire station and the equipment shed behind the fire station and the senior center, to include the senior center also. And it would help with some layouts and floor plans and a budget for each, and to work with town staff to help with those items so that we can get more information for a possible referendum for construction for the project. The funds for this are after we've completed the outdoor, that was many years ago, with the outside of the facility. We also used some grant funds to do some internal work on the old firehouse last spring and last winter. And so there's approximately $80,000, a little more, $85,000 left in that fund, which is from insurance proceeds, which was authorized for this purpose years ago. And so that's where the funds would be used from. So it's basically insurance proceeds remaining from the fire, actually.
Thank you, Tony.
That's why there's no funding request.
I'm sorry.
That's why there's no funding request. I just wanted to mention that.
Right, okay. So we do probably, there is an action as appropriate. So before we go further, I'll make a motion that we approve the $17,700 for what Tony said. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, now I will ask if anyone has any comments or questions. Just for the residents who are listening in, this is absolutely just the first step in a process toward referendum that will be decided on by the voters for all of this, just so that's clear. And with that, I'll open it up to comments and questions from the board. Oh, okay.
Well, I will. So maybe, Tony, what you can do is say, why are these documents necessary to go forward with a referendum?
So this documents will provide more information so that we have a clear idea of what the facilities will look like, what the facilities will cost. So when you go to a referendum, you have a more accurate budget and a layout. The layout helps to drive the budget, and it would be a layout that hopefully you all are happy with. And so that provides information.
Right. So how does this play off of what David Stein has already done in terms of the firehouse, the old firehouse layout and the costing of that? So it's not in a state that can be used for the purpose of a referendum?
You probably would need a little more information on the cost, unless you want to estimate. Oftentimes he'll estimate conservatively, and then you don't want to borrow more than you actually need. So from a lot of that, he used just estimates on what prior, either industry estimates or just to sort of give you a ballpark. If you remember, it said 1.6 to 1.8 million, sort of a range. It would just provide more information you would need anyway eventually, should you go forward with the projects. It's not, we would need to, Dwight just got experience in this. We would need to do this anyway. Dwight, at some point,
Yeah, this is normally done, Sandy. This is a process that's normally followed. And the thing is, once you get a conceptual design, then you retain the services of an architect. What he'll do is he'll come in, meet with all the parties. He'll meet with the firehouse about the shed in the back, what their needs are, what their requirements are. He'll sit down with human services. He'll sit down with the town, like with recreation and everything else, to find out what their needs are. He'll actually lay it all out per those needs. He'll actually do a schematic, like a floor plan, elevations or whatever it is. And then based on that, once it's approved, he will put an estimate on it that then we could use and we can go to referendum for. It's a much more defined cost at that point, rather than estimating per square foot of what we all think it may cost.
And then it'll identify for you if you think the cost was too high. You'd be able to modify it, or if you think it's too low or whatever.
Okay, thank you.
Have we paid him for anything that he's done so far? Have we been paying them, or is that part of?
For what he's done over the past, we paid him not very much, a few $1,000s for that work.
For what? Okay, so a lot of presentations we've seen, things of that nature.
Correct. Not very much. It was just for basically his time.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else have any comments or questions? So did I make a motion, Betsy, or we have to do that? No motion. Okay, someone like to make a motion on?
So moved, Dwight.
Okay.
You did make a motion.
Okay.
I thought you did, yeah.
Yeah, 1,700. Then you said what Tony said.
I saw Betsy.
Sorry.
All right. Sorry. Okay. Okay. So there's a second. So call the question. Any other discussion from anyone? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? All in favor, correct? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, now moving on, we have gremlins living in Town Hall, and we had at one iteration of our agenda a proposal from Sean Rowland for the truck or treat, and he was going to come this evening, and I believe he's just signed on because he knew we were going to do that. It was on one of the agendas, and then it went away. We don't know where it went, but I will take full responsibility because I don't know what else to do. But anyway, we need to add an item to the agenda. So I would like to move that we add to the agenda a discussion and action is appropriate. And a proposal from Sean Rowland, our fire chief, regarding the truck or treat proposal for 2020. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. And this is just to add the item to the agenda. And any discussion on this? Thank you. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none. Okay, so we've now added a new agenda item. I'll call it 9A. And I believe Fire Chief Rowland has just joined us to discuss and tell the board about the different than usual 2020 truck or treat event coming up, I believe, on actually Saturday, October 31st, 2020. So the floor is yours. I will mute myself and be prepared to answer and ask and answer questions. Thank you.
All right, good evening, guys. I'll try to make this quick as possible. We started Truck or Treat 9 years ago. This is actually going to be our 9th year. We started it during Superstorm Sandy when we had the hurricane. And during that, Halloween was canceled. And it was just the night before, we actually threw the thing together because all the roads were blocked. We were out responding to numerous calls, and we decided we wanted to do something safe and fun for the kids. We didn't expect the turnout that we got that first year. I think the first year we had in the area about 3,500 people that showed up that year because Halloween was basically canceled because it was unsafe to do conventional trick-or-treating. And ever since then, it really took off. It's been a huge event for us. It's been a huge event for the town. And we added fireworks over the last few years. And just as of last year, we had in the area about 4,000 people attend. So we're holding those numbers pretty steady. So it's a really good event. It's safe. We were providing food and candy, fun, decorating the trucks, and just a huge community event. This year with the pandemic, it's going to be a little bit different. We thought about it, and it was kind of tough to figure out how to do it safe. We didn't want to cancel it. We just didn't really know how to do it right away. So what we came up with was we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to do a drive-by truck or treat, where we want to set the trucks up onto Meeting House Lane. I talked to the police chief, by the way, so he is working on it with the traffic authority as long as you guys are good with it. Set the trucks up on Meeting House Lane, and we decorate them there. And we would have the firefighters basically be handing candy out. They'd be all gloved up, masked up. There'd be prepackaged candy in each pumpkin. And basically we would be handing it inside the vehicle. No one gets out of the vehicle. Everybody would stay in, and it would be a nice slow truck or treat. We did purchase an FM transmitter. So while you're going through it and while you're staying in line, you'd be able to listen to spooky music and basically enjoy yourself. And it's just something to get the kids dressed up in their costumes and do some type of Halloween where it is safe. There'd be no food this year. We're staying away from that, but prepackaged candy. And one of the trucks would actually have fire prevention material on it, where we could hand them out the coloring books, the little red fire hats and stuff like that. Just because we can't really have fire prevention this year at the schools and the daycares and everything else to promote that. So we thought, along with truck or treating, it would be a good idea to hand out, some fire prevention with this event. Basically, the event would be Saturday, October 31st from 5 to 8. There would be no fireworks this year. just because, just to keep it safe and simple. And we are actively looking and getting donations of candy and monetary donations to purchase candy. We are on an average year, we go through roughly 50 to 55,000 pieces of candy. So we are actively getting that right now. But we're here tonight because we want your support. We want you to be a part of it. And we basically want to use Meeting House Lane. So I'll open it up to any questions, or you guys have anything you want to add.
Sean, I have a question. Of the truck or okay, I have kids, let's say, and they're in my car, and you drive up onto Meeting House Lane, and there's a line of cars. Where's the line going to be?
So we're going to work that out with the police. We're going to work that out with the police department. One of the ideas, and it's not set in stone, but we're going to be talking to the high school about possibly having the cars enter off of North Pease Road and go into the high school and line up in the high school, and then we'll cross them on Newton Road to Meeting House Lane, so we're not really clogging up all the roads. It is a Saturday night, and they would exit onto Center Road, and they can go right or left, and we would do that. So we don't have long lines going down Newton Road or Center Road, or we basically keep the roads really manageable where they can still remain somewhat open and passable.
So Sean, more or less, have people go in through the back way of the high school, end up at the front of the high school, and then cross there? That type of thing? Correct. So we'd have the high school basically using the high school as a staging areas, and everybody would still remain in their cars. We don't want anybody out of their vehicles and socializing that way. It's more of just to keep everybody going and moving, so we're not clogging up the road either.
So you have spoken with the superintendent in school yet, or not yet?
I have not, because I'm working on it with the police chief and trying to figure out the best way of doing this. So as long as we have somewhat of a plan, I'll reach out to Jen Byers and see if that's an issue. I don't believe it would be an issue. All we're basically using is a cut through on a Saturday night.
Oh, I know. Yep, exactly. I hope they don't have a game, or I don't know how this is all working with sports and stuff. You'll have to see, but that sounds good.
I believe sports is all canceled for the fall, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't know.
No, they're playing soccer.
Oh, are they?
Yep, they're definitely playing soccer.
Yeah, and there was cross country, because they had they had one meet on October 2nd over at the Fitzgerald, and I know they're going to do another. That's outdoors, Fitzgerald. So anyway, that's good. That'll be an important piece, obviously, because do you have a plan B?
Plus it's Halloween night.
I got that part. Do you have a plan B in case there is a problem with the high school?
As soon as I have plan B, you'll be the first one to know about it.
Okay, because we got to let people know. You don't want to for Buffalo. Okay. So anyone else have any other questions for the chief about this? Insurance and all that stuff, and you know what you have to do, and obviously, anything.
The insurance we're okay with. The reason why we usually got insurance in the last few years was for the fireworks.
Right. Okay. Jerry, is there anything else we need?
No, I think that's it, Beth.
Okay, great. Thank you. So
thanks for coming up with an alternative, Sean. Yeah. I think it's real important to the kids.
Right.
Yep, we're working on it.
And this is a fundraiser for you guys too, your annual fundraiser in a sense. So
we do make a little bit of money usually on the event, not much. It's not a lot, because remember, we usually are buying the food and candy and everything. It's a free event, and this year would be a free event. We didn't want to charge. I know it came up where people were talking about charging $5 or $10 a car. The problem is some people are doing okay with business wise and everything else, and other people are still struggling. So, and we always kept it free, even the first year and everything else. So we didn't really want to make a big change and start charging people there. We want to still be able to help people out. So, and the event is good for everybody, and it's actually really good for the firemen because we're actually doing something where we're not going to race into an emergency and seeing you in your time of need. It's actually good to see all the kids in the car and doing something good for them.
That's a very, very good, important point. And the sponsorship you use toward providing the candy and all the other stuff for the kids. So
Yes,
that's very
all the
nice.
sponsorships we take, the sponsorships we take in offset all the candy and everything else the decorations and everything else that we do.
It's wonderful. Okay. I'll make a motion that we approve it as presented with all the necessary things in place, i.e. high school parking, Plan B if necessary, and you'll keep us informed. I can let the selectmen know. Okay. Thank you. Is there a second?
Okay.
Thank you. Any other discussion or questions on this? There's nothing. Great. Anybody have a question? I think not. All in favor? By saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, all done. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Well, where's the agenda? Here it is. Okay, papers everywhere. Thank you. Okay, Chief, thank you. Moving along, got that done. Number 10, Assistant Administrative Officer's Report. Betsy Yagla.
Hello. So under my reports, the first item is we have 2 requests for use of town property. The first one is a musical group called Sound Effect. They are looking to record a holiday video instead of doing an in-person concert. And they'd like to film part of their video at the gazebo in mid-November, and they're asking for permission to use it for that reason.
Anybody have any comments or questions on this? Okay. I'll make a motion that we approve it as discussed with all of the events that are agreed to in the application. Go forward. Thank you. Any questions? You have all this.
Betsy, there's nothing of concern here, correct? I mean, this is just.
They'll be on the property for a really short period of time. They need no setup from us other than that they will need use of the electricity. That's on the property. Yeah, it's very minimal. It's not really going to prevent any other member of the public from using it except for that short period of time on that Sunday.
Thank you.
Great. How do we get the electricity turned on and off?
Brad or Bobby flip a switch.
Okay, they'll have to turn it on probably on Friday and then shut it off on Monday, right?
Yeah, this would not create any overtime for us.
Okay. Okay, wonderful. Any other questions? Sounds good. I'll call it motion. Did we make a motion?
You did, and I think you seconded it.
Yep. Okay. Thank you. Please say
Aye.
Any opposition? That passes unanimously. Thank you, Betsy. Thanks for doing the heavy lifting on this one. Next one is item B, Troop 63, a holiday tree sale signs on the town property. And I believe Ted Pokowitz is not coming or coming?
I told him he didn't need to come because the application, the goal of the application was to answer the majority of the questions that you would normally have to save everybody time. So this event is very similar to what they've done in the past. They're looking to use the grove between the old firehouse and the library for their annual holiday tree sale and to put up signs, as you mentioned.
As we've done every year forever. Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve the application for Troop 63 to have their, as before, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dwight. Any questions on this? All in favor, please by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay, that's item C is the bike pedestrian proposal. Authorize the first selectman to execute the grant application, and the floor is yours again, Betsy.
So first I have to thank volunteers Kate Rosen and Charlotte Sapo for doing the very heavy lifting on this grant application. There's no way that I would have been able to get this done in time without their help. I've had lots of other help from department staff, but really the heavy lifting was done by these 2 volunteers. So this grant is called the Connecticut Community Connectivity Grant Program, and the objective is to make conditions safer and more accessible for pedestrians and cyclists. The grant only funds constructions and material costs. So if we do receive the grant, there will be some soft costs that the town can anticipate, including engineering for the proposed sidewalk, removing a few trees where the sidewalk would be, creating a small water retention system where those trees would be removed. So some costs would be incurred by the town. The application is in your packet. You all received it earlier this morning. So I'll just quickly summarize the project and then take any questions that you might have. So the project is taking the first steps toward creating bike and pedestrian infrastructure in the Woodbridge Town Center. And it will connect Town Center campus with the 2 public schools, Peace Place Playground, and the athletic fields there, various religious institutions in town, and some popular walking trails in town. These will be connected through a bike route that will be created with signage along the road and sharrows. Those are the white painted images of bikes that you see on roads. That would be on town roads that are part of the route. So part of Newton, Pease, and Beecher. There will be a few crosswalks along the way where traffic already stops at 4-way stops. So it won't be creating any differences in traffic flow. Those crosswalks would include rectangular rapid flashing beacons, which are solar powered lights that a pedestrian could push a button and the lights would flash to alert any cars that a pedestrian is about to cross the street. There will also be solar powered traffic control signs to raise drivers' awareness of their speeds. These are signs you may have seen in other towns. They're attached to the speed limit sign, and it shows you the speed that your car is doing compared to the speed that you're supposed to be doing. So it's another way to raise awareness of driver speed and create safety for non-vehicular traffic on the road. The grant application also calls for replacing the asphalt sidewalk that goes around the library and replacing it with stamped concrete and decorative lighting to match what's already at the rest of the town center campus. And it will create a new sidewalk linking the library with the high school. That's the gist of the grant. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have about it.
So I do have a question, Betsy. Does this create bona fide bike lanes on these roads? And if it does it mean we're expanding the roadway to incorporate the bike lane?
No. So bike lanes in general, if I understand the standards correctly, should only be created where there's enough width on the road to create a separate lane. And I've seen different standards, anywhere between 3 feet and 6 feet is what I've seen suggested. And in places where you cannot create a bike lane, that's when it's suggested that you use a sharrow, assuming the speed limit is low enough. So we would not be putting sharrows on the state roads because their speed limits are higher, usually 45 miles an hour on, say, Amity, Rimmon, Ansonia, Center. So instead, we would just have signs reminding drivers to expect to see cars on these roads. Whereas on the town roads, where the speed limits are lower, Pease, Newton, and Beecher, that's where we would have the sharrow painted on the road. And sharrow is a contraction of share the road. So there would also be signs saying share the road, which is an indication that drivers should expect to see cyclists on the road.
Go lay down, buddy. I'm working. You got to go lay down.
And I will quickly share my screen here so that you can see a map. I know it's a little hard to imagine the area that we're talking about here. Does everybody see that? So yes. The yellow line is what we're imagining will be the bike route, and it connects a lot of major destinations in the center of town. And there would also be a couple crosswalks down here at the intersection of Center and Amity, and Bond and Amity. And that would just include painting the crosswalk on the road. The DOT says they already consider those to be crosswalks because there are push buttons there that a pedestrian could push to activate the light. There's just no markings on the road. So we've included the markings on the road there.
Anyone have any other questions? Are we okay with, I guess I need to make a motion. Well, somebody else should do this because it's authorizing me to sign it, I think, so.
Mhm.
Good.
So I'll make a motion that we approve the submission of the bike pedestrian proposal. Is that what you want to call it, Betsy, or something else?
It's a grant application, right?
Right. So it's the it's a mouthful. Connecticut Community Connectivity Grant Program, and Beth needs to be authorized to execute it.
Okay. So I move that we authorize Beth to execute the grant proposal that Betsy just mentioned.
Thank
I'll
you.
second that.
Thank you. Jerry, is this okay? You've seen it?
Pardon me, what was that, Beth?
You've seen this grant application, or is it standard, or?
It's standard, it's fine, I did see it.
Okay, thank you so much. Anyone have any other comments or questions on this?
Betsy, please extend our thanks to those other folks who were involved in this and putting it together. It really seems, I mean, it seems to be a lot more interest in biking, generally speaking. And I think it's a wonderful opportunity for us.
Absolutely, I will.
And it's a terrific beginning. I understand this is phase one, and there will be another phase. So it's a great way to start and to build community, and as Mika said, to really foster biking and walking.
Which is great. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Any other comments, questions? Okay, hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor of the motion? Say aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, it passes unanimously. Thank you, Betsy. And again, to you as well, and to everyone that got this moving forward. How long does it take till we find out?
I'm not sure. The grant is due on Friday, and I'm not sure when we find out.
Okay, well, we'll have good thoughts. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda is 10D. It's the Woodbridge Board of Education Town Shelter Agreement. This is more, I believe, at this point, FYI. It's just so go ahead, take it away, Betsy. Thank you.
Sure. So following Tropical Storm Isaias, Human Services Director Jeanette Glicksman and I began to explore alternative or additional shelter locations in case there's a need to open the town shelter during the pandemic. Because of social distancing requirements, we can either house significantly fewer people in a shelter, or we need additional space to shelter people. So naturally, we turned to our partner at Beecher Road School, and we've come up with a draft agreement of the shelter use. Excuse me. It's been before the Board of Ed's facilities committee, and they were generally in favor, I believe, but they did raise a question about whether designating the school a shelter would raise the school's category, safety category or risk category, according to the building code. And I've been in touch with Building Inspector Andy Rizzo about this, and he doesn't think that it's going to pose a problem, but he's going to look into the issue for me. So I just wanted to let you all know that that's in discussion, and as soon as I have an answer, I can get back to the facilities committee at the school.
Thank you very much for that. Anyone have any questions right now for Betsy? There'll be more information coming forward further along. Any other questions?
Emergency power. Does Beecher have emergency power to host an emergency shelter in case of a storm, and say Beecher loses power, which it does occasionally? Is there emergency power available to be called a shelter?
Beecher does have a wind excuse me, Beecher does have a wind turbine on the roof, but it's only to power a very limited service like emergency lighting. Excuse me. So the school is on our priority list with the utility, so that when we do lose power, the school is among the first buildings to be restored. And that's what we saw also with Tropical Storm Isaias. We were able to ask the utility to prioritize restoring power at the school, so that we were able to allow people into the building to take showers. So they don't have emergency power in the way that you're thinking of it, Dwight, but they are on our short list for restoring power.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else have any comments or questions at this point? Hearing nothing. Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much, Betsy. Moving along, item 11, I'll make a motion that we acknowledge receipt of the town clerk's reports in your packet. Is there a second? Thank you. Any discussion, questions? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Item 12, minutes of September 9th, 2020, the regular meeting. You have a copy of those in your packet. I will make a motion to get it moving along that we approve the Board of Selectmen regular meeting minutes of Wednesday, September 9th at 5 p.m. as submitted. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Anyone have any additions, corrections, changes? Hearing nothing, I'll call the question. Did I hear something?
No.
I don't know. Okay. Is someone trying to just, I don't know. Okay. Call the question. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Very much. Anyone opposed or abstaining? Okay, that passes unanimously. Let's see. Okay, this is something we have to approve. You have in your packet a copy of the Town of Woodbridge Department of Finance FY 2022 proposed budget meetings. Jerry Shaw asked that we approve the following because they will become regular meetings of the Board of Selectmen. We only have to do the first two. Tuesday, December 1st, 2020 will be a joint meeting between the Boards of Selectmen and Finance regarding the capital budget presentation at 6 p.m. And also the same thing on Thursday, December 2nd. Wait a minute. Tuesday and Thursday, 1st and 2nd can't work. A Tuesday and a Thursday can't be 1 and 2.
Right, it's 1 and 3.
Thank you. I'm reading it out loud going, wait a minute, that doesn't work. Okay. So it's actually Tuesday, December 1st and Thursday, December 3rd, which we will also, again, a capital budget presentation, because the Board of Selectmen it's a regular meeting of us. We have to approve those two. So I'll make a motion that we approve those. And I'll ask for a second.
Second.
Thank you, Mika. Any discussion? First thing, all in favor, please signify by saying aye to your calendar.
Aye.
Thank you very much. So that takes care of that. The rest of it is just you could think about some of those meetings because there are other joint meetings between the Boards of Selectmen and Finance related to operating budget stuff. So hold on to this piece of paper. We don't have, the only thing we had to prove tonight was those first two. And then second under this item is just a point of information. Normally we meet on the second Wednesday of the month. However, the second Wednesday of the month in November is Veterans Day. So we will be meeting, just a reminder, FYI, we will be meeting on Tuesday that month, November 10th. That's next month, Tuesday, November 10th. Okay, so I just wanted to let you know about that one. That's just point of information. And then moving on, oh, Jerry, we're up to you already. Item 14, Town Council's report. Item A is the AMR contract update.
All right.
Jerry, you might be on mute.
He says, you're okay now. We can hear you.
Okay. AMR has a contract with the town for emergency medical response that expires at the end of December. We entered into a 1-year extension last year, and it's coming up very quickly. We are going to begin some contract negotiations with AMR as soon as possible. And then the other issue that's outstanding is whether the town, and we spoke about this quite a bit last year, the town is of the mind to try and retrieve the primary service area responder license, which is now held by AMR. If the town does move to try and get that license from the Department of Public Health, who supervises this procedure, the town will then have to make alternative plans for somebody to be our emergency response provider, or the town has to look into whether it wants to do it itself. Joe Dye and I met with an attorney. His name is Jeff D'Onofrio from North Haven, who handled a successful application before the DPH to get its license back from AMR about a year now ago. And we wanted to see, number one, how much was involved, what was involved, how much it would cost, and just what the town would need to do. And Joe was on the line, and my takeaway from that conversation, and I know Joe may have a little bit of a different slant on it, is that the legal fees are very, very expensive. And number two, the town would have to try and be successful in retrieving the license and doing the emergency response by itself, or get another provider other than AMR. We would have to be able to show that the town is capable of performing the services, some of the services, if not all of the services that AMR currently provides. As you know, AMR has a car in town 24/7, stationed right at the center of the town, available for all 911 calls that come from the town. So far, the EMS Commission has indicated to the Board of Selectmen several months ago that they are very satisfied with the times and the responses by AMR. The question now is, if you want to pursue the retrieving that license back from AMR and make other plans, we must have a plan. We must be able to show how we can do it, or how we can hire someone who can do it in place of AMR. The town has, as you know, all volunteer fire departments. The towns that have been successful in retrieving these licenses in recent history were Milford and North Haven, and both of those towns have paid fire departments. So it's a little different for the town of Woodbridge to assume these responsibilities because we only have volunteers. So the first question that the board has to address is whether the town can come up with a plan, whether the fire department, fire chief can come up with a plan that would be adequate to present to the Department of Public Health in what turns out to be an adversary hearing. It is actually basically a hearing tantamount to a trial where witnesses are presented to try and show how the current holder of the license is not providing adequate services, and number two, how the town proposes to substitute another entity or the town itself to do those services. So we're going to begin, I talked to Tony about this, we're going to begin to try and see if we can get some fairly favorable towns from AMR to see what they would be charging us in the future. And then the Board of Selectmen will have to make a decision as to how it wants to proceed with retrieving the license back from AMR.
So Jerry, as I understand it, we have to have a plan in place, correct, in order to retrieve the license?
We have to have a plan, not in place, but to propose to the Department of Public Health that this is, if we do get the license, this is what we will do to meet the obligations and to make sure the residents of Woodbridge have adequate emergency response services.
And how do we get that plan? Where would we ask for that plan from?
Well, usually, the fire department would present a detailed plan of what they think should be the proposal and how we should go forward. Again, keep in mind, we have all volunteers, so it's going to be hard for us to carry out those obligations without significant expenditure. And then there's always the alternative of trying to find another provider, such as AMR. But our experience, Tony and I met with one other provider who clearly didn't have the coverage capabilities that AMR has to respond to our needs for emergency services. So we need the plan.
So could we go forward?
Feels that it can come up with a plan that's cost effective, then we can go ahead and talk about maybe proceeding and trying to get the license ourselves. I would suggest that the EMS Commission take a look at this again. They've done it last year to see what their experience over the past several months has been with AMR.
in terms of their performance.
Yes.
Correct. So that's step one. And then the second part would be to find, I guess, perhaps to ask the fire chief or fire department to come up with something.
That would be the logical place to go to come up with a plan if they think it's feasible to have better service or at least as good a service for less money.
Okay, at least a similar cost, not obviously spending more. And but to have the same service, at least cost effective.
You would want to either improve service or get better financial arrangements. To make a lateral change might not make sense, but you want to see how you can do better.
All right, and we have a time crunch in terms of asking for this?
No, we really don't. Our contract with AMR is up in December, but we can continue with them. I'm sure they will grant an extension, or if they don't want to grant an extension, we will get emergency response from area providers who will have to respond. We won't be necessarily able to take advantage of the time standards that we currently have with the AMR contract. In other words, they have to respond in certain times for them to fulfill their contractual obligations. If we don't enter into a new contract with AMR, we might get some service from other providers who are in the area when a call comes in, but they will not be subject to the contract time requirements that we now enjoy with AMR.
And perhaps having a paramedic in the town 24/7, 365.
We might not be able to have a paramedic 24/7.
Okay, I got it. Okay, Sandy, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I'm just still very confused about why we're trying to upset the apple cart. And given that there are no real good competing options that would give us the service requirements that I think we would want to maintain, I would want, if the fire department wants to kind of make a proposal or connect with another company, let them present to EMS and see if EMS is satisfied that it's a comparable service. And if it is, then we should consider it. But if it's not, then I don't think we should change anything.
If I could also, if I recall, the reason this came up was because there was some potential significant savings. Jerry, if I understand what you're saying correctly, first we have to go through the process of securing the license back, which you indicated there is some expense associated with that. And so far in the analysis or in the work that you and Tony have done, you've not seen any alternatives that are substantially more or substantially better than what we have right now. Did I understand that as well?
That's correct. Tony and I met with one of the other competing ambulance services, and they clearly do not have the kind of capability that AMR has in terms of coverage. AMR has coverage in all the communities in our area, and they could call upon an ambulance or a fly car if our car is not available. The other.
And they were also, Jerry, they were very hesitant to provide us with a financial proposal while we were still under contract with AMR.
Right, but they were not beating down the door to try and get the deal from us. I think they recognized that it would be a significant undertaking for them, and they might not have the resources. I don't know whether they will actually make a bid. We don't know, right, Tony? Is that correct?
It was. Go on.
Yeah, we don't have an actual financial proposal from them. Whether they'll make a bid or not, we will only find out if we put out an RFP.
Correct.
Tony, there was also discussion as to whether or not, for example, if another town needed to use the paramedic or the service, we were kind of left in the lurch. It seemed like the two things that we were really looking at one point in time was to save a considerable amount of money and potentially improve the service. Is it still looking like that's possible?
I'm not sure about saving the money, and the EMS commission would be able to find out how many calls we'd have to find. I'm not sure on the number of calls over the past 6 months since the pandemic, whether or not that's changed. I don't have a sense for that at the moment. Have you heard?
So on the savings of money, Mika, again, I have to repeat that the towns that were successful in pursuing this kind of a course of action with towns that already had existing paid fire departments with existing limited some ability to perform emergency services. In other words, North Haven actually did some of the emergency services. Milford actually had some role in the emergency services, and they shared it with AMR. They were able to show that if they were able to get AMR, more control, they would be able to deliver better services. So they already had an infrastructure. We do not have any infrastructure at all because we're all volunteers. So it would be a significant ramping up. If the town were to undertake it, it would be a major ramping up of expenses to get in a position to be able to do it. And I also might point out that as far as I know, and I think the EMS Commission has said this when they came before us, it might have changed over the last 6 or 7 months. We have not had, happily and thank God, any complaints about inadequate service from AMR. As far as I know, there may be some out there that I don't know.
I guess I jumped over the comments.
Yeah, one I'd like to mention is we were talking about maybe changing CMed. Right now, everything is run through AMR. All the calls go in AMR. The only ambulance service which can service Woodbridge is AMR. AMR will not call any other service. They won't call Nelson. They won't call any of the other departments in our local area. And that was one of the issues. That was one of the things I thought, Tony, a while ago, and Jerry, that we talked about in looking into doing that, because there wasn't an increase in cost, but it would also help us if we needed to, we could get, better service out of CMed.
All I can say on that, Dwight, yes, we did talk about, and that is not a difficult change, and AMR would not object to us getting another ambulance supplier. But again, I have not heard, and there may be problems out there, I have not heard of any instance where the town did not get adequate services to help somebody who needed an ambulance. They have performed pretty well. And it is true, AMR owns CMed. CMed will be calling out AMR ambulances to respond. But they have those ambulances in the area, and they're able to respond pretty quickly. From what I can get, I may be wrong again. We have to take a fresh look at it.
Yeah, I just like to bring that up because we talked about it. It dropped off the radar for a long time, but it was just something that we're now locked into AMR through everything. So even trying to get a license back, you still have to call AMR to get an ambulance, no matter what it is. So if we're thinking about it, and I think we should continue to think about it, we should perhaps wean ourselves off of AMR, TMed, and we can go to the other one. That's all.
Okay.
I just think, I don't want to lose track of it. I think it's an option we should be doing. We should be considering doing right now.
Good point. Tony, we should look into that, Tony.
We will look into all of our other CMed options, and we'll let you know what they are and present those to you.
Okay. We could perhaps get that for perhaps the next meeting, November?
We could try.
Maybe?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's okay. That's fine. I just don't want to lose track of it. That was the reason I called you, Beth, on that.
I know. Thank you. But as far as the other two items, Joe Dye, you were at the meeting with Jerry. What do you think?
You on mute, Joe?
No, I'm not. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello? Yeah. No, I mean, basically what Jerry laid out is the conversation we had. I was hoping to have a conversation with the attorney who represented Milford as well, just to get two perspectives rather than one. We never have been able to do that, and perhaps I think we still should. And my other comment is should we have the fire chief come talk to us about this as well? We've had EMS commission, but maybe we ought to have the fire chief also to see what his take is on all this.
I think that would be okay. We could have him perhaps see if he could put together some kind of a proposal. I don't know if he has time, but we have a month.
Well,
10.
I don't know that he has to put a proposal together right now at this point, but maybe just to get his take on whether, how he feels AMR is doing, the CMed angle, and and everything we're talking about. I mean, I'm listening to Jerry and Tony, and that's fine, but I haven't heard from Sean, who is kind of on the front line there with what happens with the EMS and the response times and so forth. So maybe we should just hear from him as well to get an idea as to whether or not we really need to be spending a lot of time on this, or whether we're fine with AMR.
Everyone okay with that? We can have Sean come to the next month meeting, give us an update, and we'll ask for the EMS commission. Do you want to talk to the EMS commission as well, or do you want to wait?
Did you? I thought you already spoke with them.
Well, a few months ago. It was a few weeks.
They came to a meeting about 6 months ago.
Yeah, we could just perhaps an update as to how things have been going with them in terms of they I guess, Tony, I don't know, they oversee sort of they get the numbers, right, as to how we're doing.
They do, and I think it would be interesting to hear what their take is, particularly in the last 6 months.
Okay.
About how things have gone.
I agree.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll post on the agenda in November.
Is there any chance that maybe we can ask the EMS commission to send us the numbers prior to our next meeting, which they shared with us before?
We can report to you.
Sure. Yeah. I think that would be very helpful.
Okay, and then discuss it with them on November 10th. Okay.
Sounds good.
Anything else on that? And we'll look into the CMed as well, Dwight. Anybody have any other comments or questions on this? Okay. Jerry, you still have the floor here.
So as you all know, this next item is a major issue that the town is being confronted with. There was a 145-page application filed to amend, requesting that Woodbridge amend its zoning regulations and also its plan of conservation of development, because our zoning regulations exclude multifamily housing and affordable housing, and they allege in their application that's a violation of state law section 8-2 of the general statutes, which basically says that the towns must be able to, in their zoning regulations, provide the development and encourage the development of housing opportunities, including opportunities for multifamily dwellings. So we have, they allege that we only have a small area of town that allows 2-family houses, but there's not one area of town that allows more than a 2-family house, and they say that the zoning is exclusionary. Right now, they have an application pending before the Town Plan and Zoning Commission. There is a public hearing scheduled on that application, I believe, for November 30th. Which the P&Z will go over this application and at some point make a determination of whether the application should be granted. They have the right to continue the public hearing if there's a lot of commentary from our residents, which we really expect there will, and there probably should. So that's where that stands now. We are looking into, again, this is a very complex matter, legal matter. They indicated, I believe I read some newspaper accounts where Woodbridge is a test case. We're not the only town in the state that have similar kind of zoning regulations. I think they mentioned towns like Orange, Madison, maybe Bethany. I'm not sure exactly. I know there are a lot of towns in Fairfield County that are also being looked at to have similar kinds of applications filed with zoning commissions. So it has major ramifications for the town, but P&Z is going to have to examine what the law is and whether there is exclusion, or that our zoning results in any kind of exclusionary zoning rules and regulations.
Jerry,
you're going to hear a lot more on this.
What is the role at this point of the Board of Selectmen? Do we have any?
So, but the Board of Selectmen can take a position individually, as the board as a whole. It's probably premature to do anything now. I have also been talking to expert zoning attorneys who have had some experience with this kind of an action. This is really basically a little bit more than a straight zoning case. It involves constitutional issues, all kinds of state law issues. So we are seriously considering, and I've talked through, and we'll have to see how the P&Z Commission feels about hiring a lawyer to guide them along through this process, because it's, as I said, it's complicated, complex. The lawyers representing the applicant are from the Yale Law School, and they have a housing clinic that they're all part of, and they've done a very thorough investigatory job on the application so far, and the town needs to be in a position to meet any arguments or really analyze what the law is. Right now, we're really not certain where this thing should end up. But the P&Z will make a thorough investigation as to what the town needs to do to determine whether our zoning regulations are perfectly fine.
So we as a board don't need to vote to do anything at this point, nor should, I don't know if we even should. I guess.
This is just informational purposes. I wanted to just bring you an update. I know you've all seen a copy of the application. I don't know if you've read it. It's 145 pages, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. Some of the questions at this point in time, since there's something pending before zoning, we may not even be able to answer. But if you have any general questions about procedures, just let me know, and we can talk about it now.
Jerry, does P&Z have the independent authority to engage counsel?
No, because it's not in their budget. So the Board of Selectmen would have to approve counsel for the P&Z. I would like to have their, at least at the very least, the chairman's input as to whether they feel it's necessary. But it would go through the Board of Selectmen, Joe, to approve it. And I'm sure I would be surprised if P&Z would have an objection. But if the Board of Selectmen thinks that it's important, Board of Selectmen can do it. And I suppose if P&Z feels that they need some guidance to get through this and make determinations, they can ask the Board of Selectmen for the money to go out and hire independent counsel.
So I think we shouldn't lose sight of that, and I think maybe you ought to talk to them first and see what their thought is on that. But we ought to stand by ready.
Correct. I will talk to Rob Klee, who's the chairman, about whether he feels that council experience in this unique kind of application is necessary for them to continue their work.
Jerry, I have a question about should we as a board, like what happened with the cell tower, we begin to get inquiries to us, regarding the role of the Board of Selectmen in this. That's, I guess, why I asked what our role is. Should we encourage residents to send their comments or to show up? Because their comments of residents should be directed to the town plan and zoning, correct?
Correct. And there will be a public hearing on November 30th, so they have the opportunity to zoom into the public hearing, and they will actually be able to make statements at the hearing, as well as submit documentary positions.
And we as selectmen individually can do the same, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So that's just in case it pops up. We're dealing with the cell tower now, but I was thinking perhaps going forward in the next few weeks, we should be hearing from residents about the next item. So, okay. Thank you for clarifying that for me. Anyone else have any other comments, questions? Okay. Thanks, Jerry.
Okay.
Do you have anything other before we go into executive session?
No other.
Other. Okay. All right, wonderful. Thank you. We are now down to executive session under your report. I will make a motion pursue. Can I do these together, Jerry?
Yes.
Okay. I will make a motion pursuant to section 1-206B. Actually, it's for both of them. One related to litigation at 47 Pease Road in Woodbridge, and then a tax assessment appeal at 4 Deer Run Ridge. Sorry about that. There's two separate things. Deer Run Ridge. I'll make a motion that we go into executive session, invite into executive session Attorney Weiner and Administrative Officer Tony Genovese. Is there anyone else I need to invite in?
No, I think Tony is a participant and relevant to both of these issues, so he can come in for both issues.
Thank you very much. Is there a second? Thank you, Sandy. Any discussion on this? And I guess Pua and Betsy turn off, and then we somehow figure out how to let you turn on again. It sounds like something from the 60s, turn off and turn on, you know. Okay, so I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. We are now out of executive session. I can report that there were no motions made nor votes taken during executive session. We have one item to act on as a result of our executive session. Under number B, pursuant to section 1, the tax appeal of number 4, Deer Run Ridge, I will make a motion that we approve the settlement of the tax assessment appeal in the amount of $4,500 to settle the case at 4 Deer Run Ridge. Name of the person is the Wright family, WRIGHT.
Yes. And this settlement does not affect the assessed value currently on the property.
Okay.
This is just a settlement of claims, and we have a general release from the rights, and it does not affect the assessed value of the property going forward at this point in time.
Thank you for that. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any further questions or discussions on this? I'll call the question. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And now I will make a motion that we adjourn on a non-debatable motion. Yay. Is there a second?
Second.
And I thank you all for being with us and hanging in. We did
Thanks,
pretty
everybody.
good considering we got a lot done. So everyone keep safe. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
We'll talk about our next meeting.
Take care.
Bye-bye.